Are you thinking about making a podcast? Spotify has a platform that lets you make one, and if I can figure it out, you definitely can too. You can create your own content all in one place for free with zero hangups and even earn money as soon as you get started. Spotify lets you record and edit episodes from your phone or computer so you can go mobile, just like I enjoy to do. My favorite thing about it is that you can create video episodes if you wish and upload them to wherever podcasts are heard. You can even set up subscriptions, or if you're like me, listener support options for listeners to help you grow. I 10 out of 10 recommend the Spotify for Podcasters app. Or, why don't you just step over to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your own podcast. Before we get started today, I want to say thank you for every single like, comment, recommendation, and a very special thank you to my listener support group. If you like what we do here at Off the Deep End Podcast, please consider checking out the listener support tab on our channel's anchor link. Without you, we would not be able to continue the great work we're doing with these conversations, breaking down boundaries and helping heal each other by sharing our stories, our trials, our tribulations, and how we process them. Let's jump straight into this episode. All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Deep End Podcast. I am joined once again by Rebel. We're going to wrap up the story, pick up where we left off. We were just talking about you being at MEPS. Holy shit, MEPS. Not a fan of MEPS. Definitely not. You want to talk about, shed some light on there?
With MEPS, I really didn't care for it, but I thought like, I don't know, something different it was going to be. And they kept saying like, oh, you're gonna be there all day and be there all day. And I was just like, there's no way I'm gonna be here from 4 in the morning till 8 in the afternoon. And clearly I was. So I was like really mad about that. But because I wanted to do like I had plans with my friends and I was so like wanting to bar and stuff like that and chill with my friend, which is where all my friends like met. We all met at Charlie's Sports Bar, and we would all get together. We go up there every day. I mean, even if we was broke, if we had money, didn't have money, we would go up there every day, like just ordering drinks, and we all worked there. Well, some of us worked there, some of us didn't work there, some of them were actual customers, and then some were like myself that actually, you know, worked there. So we would go and drink, and there was a couple of other bars in the area, like bench and some like hookah lounges or whatever. But Charlie's had like a slots machine back that you could play and win money. So we put like our last $5, and then if somebody won 100 or $200, we'd be like, "Oh, where are we going to eat?" Like we didn't started going somewhere to eat together. It was me, Thomas, Sabrina, and Rhonda, and um we're just always like really close, and um hung out everywhere. Always on the phone with each other, always like checking in on each other. And they kind of showed me something that I was lacking at that time, which was, loyalty. And I've never had just such loyal friends. I feel like I told you, all my life I was just fighting. I was just fighting with everybody, whether it be best friends or family or just even acquaintances. I was just always fighting. So like with this typical friends group, we didn't like fight. I mean, we disagree with each other sometimes, but we never just had like a big blown out fight where we were just like, oh, F Dev, I'm never again with my in my life, or I'm never hanging out with them again. It was all just humble love and just loyal to one another. We wouldn't let people talk shit about each other, with or without that person there. Like I wouldn't let somebody disrespect my friend with them there, without them there. What you can't say to them to their
100%.
face, you might as well not say it.
100%. You have to be a fierce friend.
Exactly. And we had to, that's what it all was. And at the time, I was also hanging out with another one of my friends that was a coworker at, KFC. And her name was Becky, or Rebecca. And um, we were hanging out really close too. And she was very loyal as well. When I wanted to get away or, just take like a like a drive. I would go to her house and talk to her. And her cousin worked at this barbecue place down the street from her house, and we would go up there and get free food. It's always good to have like the family. But Becky had a lot of loyalty, and she told me, like I say, but I feel like everybody teaches you something in your life that you need to hear. And it could just be, like a sentence or a phrase that they say that you've never heard before, or you've heard it, but it hasn't been phrased in a way that you need to like receive it for you to understand it. And at that time, I was going through like still a hard time with, like the whole Williams situation. What a lot of people don't understand when it comes to something like that is so drastic. It's not an overnight thing. And
Mm-mm.
they'll always say that, oh, it gets easier with time. And like I've mentioned before, it never gets easier. You just tend to cope with it. It's never a thing. Like it still isn't easy to this day to think about. Yes, I moved on with my life. Yes, I can still be happy and I can still have friends and I can still smile and laugh and stuff. But there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about that experience, or do not think about him, or the type, or the life that he lived. So when people say, "Oh, it gets easy with time," it doesn't. And when my grandfather died, like I didn't even like cry, nothing. It didn't like really phase me. And it's different when it's like somebody that you go from talking every day to like, like you're comparing it to somebody's like, oh, well, my grandmother died a year ago. That's not the same. Like
Mm-hmm.
not the same. Like I'm sleeping beside this person every day, and you're talking about a grandmother mother you probably saw like once every year for the holidays. Like that's not the same type of thing. So when people try to compare it, it would just piss me off because I'm like, that is not the same. So I was going through a hard time still, and Becky was, showing me. Hold on, can we pause real quick?
Yeah, I think friends come into
So
your life, and it's so important to have these people who are standout friends. A lot of times I look at my life and think back to who has had a serious impact on me. Um, did I have this falling out with this individual? Did they say some fucked up shit about me or my wife, and I'm not friends with them anymore, and I don't I don't even want to see their face. That it never ever takes away, no matter how we leave off in our relationships with people we come into life with, whether it's death, love, happiness, sadness, whatever we leave it off as, it doesn't take away from the fact that you had good times with that individual, right? And that's one of my favorite things about this guy named Justin Bieber. He made this song called Ghosts, and wow, like it's a huge song to me, and I listened to it for the first time, and I was just overwhelmed with emotion because it reminded me of the relationships that we create in life. And this person might have moved on with death, moved on with um, a falling out that we've had, but it doesn't take away from the great times we spent together. And I can say the same thing about that Macklemore song, These Days. Those two songs are really, really standout factors about friendship and the connections we make in life. It really just, those two songs just speak to me when I hear you talk about that, because I know what it's like to lose somebody you really, really do love more than the entire world, and to see them go. You don't just heal. You don't just fix. You don't just wake up the next day and everything's okay.
right,
People, especially when people act weird towards you, they know you're going through a tough time. And you don't really learn to accept it. You just live with it and carry it with you every day, and hopefully eventually you can come to a point where that load gets a little lighter.
of course. And going back to the people come to you at certain times, I was I didn't want like anybody to find me attractive. So I was doing things at that particular time in my life to look attractive. I was growing my hair out, it cut, not like long, but just you know, like kind of just bummy. I was trying to look bummy. I was gaining weight. I was gaining so much weight, and like, well, if I overeat, nobody's gonna find me attractive. I'm gonna start gaining weight, and I did. I went from not even 3 years before, I was like 145, 150, soaking wet. And I think at this particular time, I was like 195, going on 200. And I just wanted to gain weight because I didn't want people to find me attractive because I didn't want a relationship. I didn't want no type of relationship. I want people to find me attractive. I didn't want to look at people. I was still mourning and still hurt, but slowly coming out of it with my friendships. And Becky taught me that pretty much I would have to like, you can't expect people to love you if you can't love and accept yourself, And at that time, she was like, you're going through so much. Like, she knew about the whole William situation. She's like, you're going through so much, but you're not forgiving yourself and you're not accepting yourself. And you're trying to find all of these ways to pretty much tell myself, like, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve better or anything. And she's like, you do, like, you deserve a lot. And I was telling her, I just thought it was really unfair um that he died in the way that he did. And she was just telling me that you have to forgive yourself. Like, you didn't force anybody anything, at the same time he made that decision. But how I looked at it is I kind of gave him an ultimatum. So honestly, whose fault was it? And when she told me that, I started feeling like it was kind of like an eye opener. And, I went back home. Of course, I was on the phone with Rhonda for like 2 or 3 hours, and me and Rhonda was really close. As I said, we met at the time that we needed to meet, both going like doing a lot of drugs, so both helping each other not do drugs, and all of these friendships are going on at one time. It's like a sitcom. It's like a story. And it's just like it's life. It's real life. Like, I would go hang out with Becky, and then I would go hang out with this. I'd go to work, go do this, go to the bar, and everybody would always end their night at Charlie's. So for some reason, we would do all things during the day, and then at night we would just all meet up at Charlie's. That was just like the thing to do in Stockbridge, Georgia, was just to go to Charlie's and meet up. And um, fast forward a few months after going through MEPS, I remember the recruiter was telling me, he was like, well, you could, dip out now and go to boot camp, or you could wait until, which he told me I had to lose, because when I weighed in, I was 200 and something pounds, and I have to be 181 to even leave. That was like my max weight was 181. So at this point, he's telling me, I have to lose weight. And he was like, we could try to get you to leave in December. I think he said December or October, or some October, November, December, around that time. Or you can ship out in February. And I was like, well, I would like to spend the holidays, one last time with my friends and family. So I ended up picking February 1st, which is when I joined, 2016, February 1st. So yes. Um, so I ended up, working on just like weight loss. And I don't know, I was never a good nutritionist. I remember I was telling myself that stuff was gonna help me lose weight, that it just would not lose weight. I mean, I was so desperate. I would have took anybody's snake oil, anybody's
Oh
voodoo
no, man, you
cream.
should have hit up my boy Brian Click, man. That's my brother. And he was this is one thing I would say for everybody in the military or anybody in life. We have this amazing connection, especially for the people I run into. I try to make every connection with somebody else a family level connection, because I want good people in my life. So I wouldn't recommend anybody to you that's fucking that's selling no snake oil. You just gotta hit up Brian Click, man. That's my bodybuilding coach. He took me from 125 pounds all the way up to 212 and back down. Unfortunately, I had to stop bodybuilding because I had a significant injury to my back, and then one to my shoulder when I was trying to come back. And but regardless, I had tremendous success with him. I wouldn't take back a second. I wouldn't take a minute of the nitty nasty cold food, like eating the same constant food, but I was doing it extreme. So like for natural just weight loss challenges, I definitely recommend my boy Brian. He'll take good care of you. You ain't had to get no snake oil. Come on now.
It was just like I would have took anybody's voodoo cream, anybody's snake oil, anybody's. If it said if it was a shack on the side of the road that said you can lose this much weight in this many days, I was paying for it.
You would have got
I was,
Herbalife. That's what you would have done. You got that goddamn Herbalife going.
and I was just so in denial of everything. I'm like, well, if I eat a 10-piece chicken wing and not a 15-piece, technically I'm gonna lose a little weight. Like I was just so stupid. I don't know what I was going through. I was over there like, oh, I'm gonna eat a salad, and the salad's like covered in ranch and bacon and everything else. And I was just like, well, this is a salad. This is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was not the good nutrition. I didn't actually learn that until the Navy, but it was so funny because I just thought everything I did was so healthy, and looking back, it was just all wrong. Um, so fast forward, I was going through like the weight loss journey, you could call it. I was losing weight, but that was because I was starting to not drink as much, and I was drinking a lot more water. And I did end up getting a membership and going to the gym and like running. That's all I could do. Couldn't pay me enough to do a push up, but I would run for a couple hours, sweat. And then I was just like, dang, I should just get back on drugs because I'll lose this weight in 2 days. That's what I was thinking. But I was like, no, 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 we're not gonna do that. We'll join the military. They're not gonna let me do that. So, but I remember thinking that, like, dang, what if I just did this for a week? I would go down to 45. But I was like, I want to do healthy. I want to do natural. So, um, I remember I was going into work. This is probably like a few months before I dipped out. I still had a while to go, but right before the holidays, I went to work like a regular day, um, and I was working at KFC Taco Bell in Jackson, Georgia. Um, and like went to work, open, and it was Rhonda went out of town that weekend to go see her kids. Her did get like taken away from her because they saw her as like an unfit mother because she was doing drugs and stuff like that. Um, so the dad kind of got him court order. She did have visitation rights and stuff like that, and she was finding her life back, and she was doing so well. She ended up getting a car. She ended up, at this point, she was getting a job. And when I met her, she was sleeping on people's couches. So she went from that to getting her own place, to getting a car, just buying furniture, doing everything right. Just got
I
her,
love it.
an iPhone, like just really doing great for her life. And we were, both sober, and we would just telling each other's, like accomplishments. Like, oh, today I got a raise. Oh, today I got promoted. And we would talk for hours on the phone. And yeah, she just got her little Camaro. Like we were, we thought we were bad bitches of the South, like with that Camaro. We were taking that thing everywhere, even just to go get a damn milkshake. We were dressing up.
That's
It's
back when
just
gas
like,
prices were good. You could drive to go anywhere. Yes, Lord.
yeah.
Nowadays you gotta
And
stay at home.
that's how it was. Like we would act like to the club and we're going to Walmart. Like that's just how it was. Like it was so funny because we were always trying to get picked up and find as a man. And so we would say, because I would be joking, but she was actually honest. She was like, yeah, I'm trying to find me a man, and we would just make it a joke or whatever. But at this point, I was starting to really be happy again and find and I had this like loyal friends, and I was still thinking, about, but it wasn't as much as like it was. I wasn't going through like the grieving process. I mean, I still was sad and stuff, but I was starting to be happy. I was starting to smile and not
Mm.
force a smile. Starting to, eat and not, force myself to eat. Um, I remember, when I was going through the grieving process, I remember there were days that I couldn't eat, and I would force myself to eat because I was just so hurt and I was so upset and I couldn't eat. And I remember I would force myself to eat and I would throw it up, and I'm like, fuck. So when you go through stuff like that and now you're doing everything and it's like I can eat a whole meal, and which at this point, I was overeating too. But um
But you're alive again. You
Yeah,
got
I'm alive.
fresh
My
air in your lungs, the sun shining. Like you can appreciate. I think after a tough time, you can really start to truly appreciate the beauty that we have around us in life. It's hard to see that when we're in it, but when we have those lows, it sets us up for the highs. And without those big highs and big lows, we're not going to have perspective to appreciate life at all.
Yes. And I do believe that. And I think that I was starting to really get happy at this point.
Mm.
I was starting to forgive myself and I was starting to accept the things. I always take it to that that Bible verse. It's always like, accept the things that you can and cannot change. I always took that
Yes.
from, the actual prayer that you would say in church. But I just really believe that, you have to accept the things that you can and cannot change. So at this point, I remember going to KFC and it was just a regular day. And the other manager got there early and she was like, well, if you want to go home, I still like managers, we get paid salary. So it doesn't matter if we're there or not. But she was like, if you want to go home, I'm here, I'm closing, I'm here early. If you want to just go on and go home, um, that way you don't have to stay here for a couple of extra hours. And I think at this point it was like 11 and I wasn't supposed to get up to 3. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll go home. Shit. You ain't gotta tell me twice. And we were salary, so about my hours, because with KFC it's kinda like the Navy. Once you're salary, they want you to stay there all fucking day. They don't care. Um so I went home and Mr. Charles, labor was high, so there was a dude there, name is Charles, and I used to take him home. He was like, well, labor's high, I'll just go home with, Rebel. And I was like, okay, I'll take you home, took Mr. Charles home. And I got home and work calls me and I'm like, fuck. Just got off. Like I just took Mr. Charles home. Like, what do they fucking want? Like, I hope they didn't get busy all of a sudden at this damn KFC Taco Bell, and now I have to come back. So I answered the phone, and um, Tanya, which was the other manager there, she was like, "Hey, your friends keep calling. They're saying it's an emergency. It's an emergency." And I'm like, and my friends keep calling. I'm like, who? And they're like, "Oh, I didn't get their names, but they said that they've been trying to call your phone." And at that point, think I had my phone like do not disturb or some shit, when I was driving. So all the calls were getting forward. And when I got home, I took it off do not disturb and it was work calling me. So I was like, shit, I haven't even noticed like anybody call me. I'm like, why is my shit not going through? So I realized like it was because I had it on do not disturb. And I guess I didn't realize that when you have that on, you can't even get calls showing up. It really means do not disturb.
Yeah, do
I
not
thought it
disturb.
just meant
That's what I do for my podcast. I call it the podcast today and just tells everybody to pretty much piss off.
right. So I was like, I thought it meant like silent or something like that. I don't know what I was thinking that day, but um, so as soon as I hang up from work, Thomas is like blowing my phone up. He's like blowing my phone up, and I'm like, yes, Thomas. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, hey, I wanted to see how you're doing. And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, why do you keep blowing my like? Who's calling my work? Like, what's going on? What's going on? And he was like, did you hear about Rhonda? And see, Rhonda went that weekend to go see her kids. And usually when she was with her kids, because I know it was like a kind of like she's with family. I wouldn't call her on the weekend. I was actually counting down the days for her to get back because it was that whole weekend I didn't have her, and I was like, shit, she'll come back Monday, and this was Monday. She usually comes back Sunday night, and I was like, well, when she gets home, I don't want to like call her first thing as she gets home. Like, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. So I was like, I'll just call her Monday when I get home from work, and then tell her to meet me at Charlie's that night or whatever. So I was like, no, I haven't talked to her since Friday because that's when she was leaving. I was like, I haven't talked to her since Friday. I was like, what's going on? And I'm thinking like Rhonda beat somebody up. I'm thinking like because she was, she was like a little hot chili pepper too. So I didn't know what she was doing. And I'm thinking I'm putting back on my clothes because I'm like, shit. Because at this point, I was my pajamas. I'm putting back on my clothes because I'm like, now I gotta go bail this bitch out. So he was like, no, she's not because I'm like, where is she? She in jail? She in a hospital? What happened? Like, who did it? And he's like, no. And And he just like flats out says it like she's dead. And I'm like, dead? I'm like, Thomas, stop playing with me. I don't have time to be playing today. I was like, you done called my phone, blew up my phone. Like, there's no way. And he was like, no, I'm telling you the truth. He was like, it's on her Facebook. And I'm like, Thomas, I'll call, because I'm pissed. I'm pissed at this point because I'm like, I don't have time for games. Like, I'm already like pissed off. So I was like, I don't have time for games. So I ended up hanging up the phone with him and I went to the Facebook and sure enough, it was all rest in peace. And I was so upset, but honestly mad. And I felt like the grieving was coming back and it just felt like somebody choked me all over again. And um I was so mad at God for a while because I couldn't understand. Like she was doing so good. And I remember yelling like in my car, like at the top of my lungs, saying that, like, I don't understand why you took her. She was doing so good. Like she was doing like she finally did like what people wanted her to do, and I was like, it's not fair. Like everybody I get close to you take away. Like I thought like he was just like at this point like making me a joke. And
There's no
um
more. They take all the hope away. The hope.
yeah.
You know, you just talking about Rhonda. I can already understand this type of person was a beacon of support for you personally as you grow. She's also growing with you, and
Mm.
as you heal, she was healing with you. As she, retook her life, stood up for what her name is supposed to represent, a powerful human being, like it is for all of us. You were
Mm.
also doing the exact same thing. This was a partner on your path of life and productivity. Of course, it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks. Yeah.
And we made so many plans. Like when I joined the military, she was going to come out to wherever I was. We were going to travel the world. Like we made so many plans. Like I was just telling her, I can't wait to get out of here because me and you, that's when we're really going to start living. And it was crazy because there's a conspiracy I have about her death anyway. Um, a spiritual conspiracy, not somebody like did it on purpose or anything. But she tell me, like I feel like I'm at home. Like this is my home. She got her house, but she would always say like, I just don't feel I'm at home. I feel like this is home, but this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And she would always tell me that. And I'm like, girl, you just stop drinking. Like you wouldn't take her seriously. And um she would tell me a lot of weird things like that. Like she would say this year is like the year, like 20, I think that was 20, yes, 15. She'd be like 2015, like this is our year, like something big in this year. Like I can feel it. And she kept telling me she could feel something big about to happen, big about to happen. She's like something big is about to happen. I can just feel it every day. It is getting closer and closer. And, hearing her say that and then looking back and, you know, I guess she didn't like know that like the big thing was like she was leaving Earth, but it was kind of weird that she would like feel that and say that, and she would call me all the time saying stuff like that, and
Mm.
I just thought that was really weird. Like she knew that she was something big was happening to her this year, that year, and she died in a car crash because apparently the dude that was driving her, um, she ended up going down because she didn't want to drive. I think to see her daughters was like 3 hours, and there was a dude. His name is Shane, and was one of her friends. Um, was like, "Well, I'll take you. I'm going down that way anyway for my job." And apparently, when they were heading back, he was drinking and driving, and he ran a red light. And when he ran the red light, a truck came and hit the side she was on, and they ended up
Jesus.
cremating. They ended up cremating her, and um, I'll tell you that story in a minute, but it was very sad. When she died, I immediately went to Charlie's and met up with all my other friends, and they had like a candle and her picture and a drink on the side of the bar for her, like where she usually sat at. And thought that was like really sweet. And everybody was just reminiscing and talking. And a lot of people were checking on me. And I like it was different this time. Will, when I went to things with Will, it was a lot of people were coming after me, and a lot of people were talking hella shit, like, "Oh, you don't have your bodyguard. Oh, you don't have this. But this time, a lot of
Horrible,
people,
horrible acts, by the way. Just want to say
yeah,
that was the worst shit I've probably ever heard in my life.
and
Didn't deserve that.
with this one, it was, you know, people were saying, "How are you doing? How are you doing?" And they were really checking up on me, and I was trying to be strong for everybody, and you know, I'm they were like, you were the closest one to her, you were the closest one to her. And I never met her. I never met her daughters. I never met her mom. I've only just talked to them on the phone, when I was with her or whatever. And I remember I hit up the daughter and was asking about the funeral and stuff like that. And I think it was like in a week or in a week and a half or whatever. And um the funeral was coming up, and I mean I took 4 or 5 days off of work. I really did. I couldn't. I think for the first 2 or 3 days, I couldn't get out of bed. Honestly, I just found no hope. But it was because of Thomas and Sabrina that I could. They actually came over to my house and drugged me out of bed because they were like, you're not going down like this, like you're not doing this." And I really like that about them because they forced me not to go into like depression or grieving or anything like that. And I thought it was so cool. They were like, "We're gonna go out, we're gonna go to bench warmers, we're gonna still have a good time." And I was really upset, like I did want to cry, and I did cry a lot on my off time when nobody was staring or nobody was looking. I was always that type of person. I never really cried in front of people. I just, did it on my time, and that was me and myself and and go back out in the real world and, be strong for everybody else. So, um, we did go to bench warmers, and we just really just reminisced her life and moved on and stayed together. And I really like that about them because at that point we were all doing so good. Rhonda had her own thing, and Sabrina was doing really good and moving and working up north. And Thomas had a job. So we were all doing so good. I got promoted. Um, so I was very excited about like all my friends who were all coming up, and I like was pretty much like enlisting in the military. Like we were all doing so good. So I was really excited for all my friends, and her funeral came up. And at this point, me and my mom, we were probably only talking once every 2 or 3 months, like if that. I mean, she stayed literally 12 minutes from my sister, so she would come over to the house like because my sister um I, has 5 kids, 4 girls, 1 boy. So my mom, and I think at that point she only had the 4 girls, and my mom would come over a lot to see her grandchildren or whatever. But I just never talked to her. She'd come over, I wouldn't even look at her. Like I was, you know, was so upset with her.
Yeah.
And um, I remember her funeral was coming up, and I called my mom, and the I didn't want anybody else there but my mom. Honestly, I didn't want my sister there. Think I wanted. I think I wanted my mom for a couple of reasons. For one, like I wanted to show her that people do love me for who I am, and I want you to see that with my friends that people can still accept me even though you won't, honestly. So what I thought. But and I wanted that because I wanted her, I guess like when I'm like grieving, she was always like there for me through a lot, except, the time with Will and stuff like that. But as a child, it just when Rhonda died, it just took me back as a child, I guess, for a second. I just wanted my mom. So I took my mom, and I remember I was being so out in town, so strong for people out in town, people crying, and I would, hug them and stuff like that and help them get over the grieving around it. Because Rhonda was really like known like in the town from a lot of people, and she liked a lot of people and grew up with a lot of people. Um, so I remember they were playing her little funeral pictures and stuff, and the family was at the front, and of course we were like in the middle. And as soon as it started, I mean, the tears just rolled down my eyes. I couldn't be strong no more. I couldn't stop them. I mean, they just came out, and I tried to stop them. I did, but after like 30 seconds, I was like, "Fuck it," you know. Um, and I mean, they were just pouring, and I was so upset. I was so sad. And after the funeral, I remember I walked up there to meet the family, and they knew exactly who I was, and they were like, "Oh, you're Rebel. She talks about you all the time, and we've never met, and I'm her daughter, and I met her mom and stuff like that." And it was just so great because it was like, wow, like she really did like talk about me, like her family. Like I've never met her family, but they all knew me. Her mom knew me. I didn't even know her mom would know me. And but what's crazy is why I think there's a conspiracy is because um her sister and her sister were born 2 years and 2 days apart, and they died 2 years and 2 days apart.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
So,
a whole lot there.
mhm.
Damn.
And I thought that was really a conspiracy. I think the saddest part about the whole thing was, the mom mentioned to me that, she wanted it to be an open casket for people that her body was just so in pieces that they couldn't. And I just thought that was really sad. It really like broke my heart because I was just like, she don't deserve that. But after we did her ceremony, and they had her ashes and stuff. I felt really at peace. I felt a lot better. And I used, I knew that she wanted me to join the Navy and do really good in the Navy. And I think I used the hurt and the pain as like motivation.
Mm.
And it like really motivated me to try hard and do hard. With so many people telling me that I couldn't pass boot camp because I'm not manly enough, or they're gonna get rid of me and this and that. And I mean, I have a lot of haters, and I mean, misery does love company, and a lot of people don't want you to move up. I literally had, a friend that told me that she didn't want me to join the military and do better for myself because she always wanted me beside her, and I thought,
You know, and that sucks too to hear that you experienced that because I had a similar situation, but I've come to find in life that people at the bottom, they always want to drag you down. They always want you right there next to them. They want to feel better about themselves by bringing you down. If you make them feel inferior, or the idea of success is too big for them to view for themselves, you're not meant to work a 9 to 5, have kids, and die. You're meant every single one of us is like destined, literally destined to do great and powerful things. All we have to do is kind of walk into that light. And it doesn't take much. It just takes self-belief and self-confidence. And I'm very glad that you didn't listen to the naysayers and you said, you know what, I'm gonna walk this all the way through the end. I'm gonna stand by my word. I'm gonna stand on motherfucking word and do what I need to do.
yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize too that there are, stages in your life, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you level up and you do. And people, I guess what they don't understand is they see you leveling up. And I think like stage one for me was the hood. Getting out the hood was already an accomplishment. And then going to Georgia and getting a nice life and a nicer life, and you making friends and stuff like that, that was like another step for me. And then when I got like, was able to get a car and do different things, that was like another step. And the people don't realize is because you're at step number one and you look up and it looks like I'm like above you. when you're standing at my level, there's still more steps. It doesn't end. You can go to step number 100. And to me, right now, that's going to look a lot. But when you get up there, it's still more stairs. It's just, to me, it looks like I'm so far up there, but I'm really not. Because once you get up here, there's still more steps. It's like when you're climbing a mountain and you're at the bottom and you're at the halfway part. When you're at the halfway part and you're at the bottom, it looks like you're at the top, but I'm not at the top. I'm way far, from the
Mm-hmm.
top. And I think people need to see that too. And also, people like that, they don't want to move up because they're not ready for change. And a lot of people are comfortable living how they are in life because they're not, they're comfortable. They're they don't have to, they don't need much, to be satisfied or to be happy. And they're just comfortable where they are. And a lot of people don't want change. After you've been working at a job for so long, you don't want to you don't want to leave the job or anything like that because now you have to start at the bottom again and move yourself up. You can't pick what off days you want because you've been there for 30 years and now you're there for 2 days. And I think that's why people just want to stay where they're at. And with Rhonda's death, it just helped me use all that hater and everything as motivation because she wanted me to really do it. And it was like a fire that like lit in me, that made me want to try so hard and to do so well in boot camp. And at this point, the holidays were coming to an end. I spent the last Christmas with my family. After that situation with, me inviting my mom, me and my mom got really close. It went from us not talking at all to, I mean, we would occasionally talk to each other to, I mean, we were calling each other every day at this point and checking in with each other. And
I think you rekindling your relationship with your mother is something that really it inspires me to continue to have hope because I have had a very poor relationship with my mother for a multitude of reasons. But you know, I wouldn't say I try not to compare life stories, but I would say not as severely painful on my end as with your experience. And you working to find solace between you and her, it inspires me to continue to have that conversation, that continued healing process with my own mother. So I appreciate that.
yeah, I do believe that. I don't know what it was, if it was, like Rhonda's death or what it was that just made me just all of a sudden just miss my mom.
Mm.
And it was crazy because, I mean, 3 weeks ago, you couldn't have me say that shit, but I, I just did. And I just honestly, I think anytime you go through some kind of like pain, with the death of one, you start cherishing the time that you have around with other family members. You start wanting to check on people. And I know my mom growing up, she tried. It was like to the best of her ability. I can't deny that she didn't try. Um, but we had a conversation and she told me that the reason anticipated me is because she didn't know pretty much how to be a mom to someone who was LGBT. She was scared. And um, she worked in a morgue and she would tell me that, when I was working in the morgue, there would be so many LGBT people that would come in dead because they would got beat up or they got shot or they killed themselves. And she said that I didn't want that for you. So I wanted to be home earlier. I wanted to make sure, you was good because seeing that, and I never looked at her aspect, but at the time, I didn't give a fuck. I was pissed. Like, I have to be back in the house at 7, 6, 5. Like, what the fuck is this? And I was just so pissed off about it because I wanted to go out and have fun. And at 16, 17, that's when you're finally able to stay up past midnight on a school night. That's when you're able to hang out and do stuff. And I just filtered. And she was just telling me that was her aspect of it. Now I can take it and leave it. Some people say like, "Oh, she was lying," or this or that, and she could be lying, or she could try to make me feel better, whatever it is. the point is, at least she spoke about it, and she didn't just pretty much leave the question spoken of, and at least she tried to shine some light on her end of why she did the things that she did. But
Mm.
yes, we were talking every day, and finally it was time. I think February. I worked all the way up until I left. Literally, I went to work the day I was leaving for boot camp. I worked that morning at KFC, and my plane didn't leave until 3 in the afternoon, and I worked until from 6 to 10, 11, and then my bags were already. Well, I didn't really. I don't even think I packed bags, but just went because I needed a paycheck, and I still had bills. And the night before, I was at Charlie's working too, drunk as hell working, and then the next day went to KFC, worked, and then left on the plane at 2. And going into boot camp, I think it was the unexpected, the not knowing what was like going to happen, and honestly, it wasn't bad. I think the only time I had like a weird feeling about it is when I was getting on the bus and we were at Great Lakes and I was just so tired. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna be up all fucking night. And you're like reading the little computer screen that they have in the bus and it's like telling you, and I'm like, what the fuck did I get myself into? You know what I mean? I'm like, shit, fuck this. And they start yelling at you and stuff. And before I left for boot camp, I remember my mom came and saw me at the hotel before you like because we had to eat. Yeah, so that we had to meet at the hotel and then they take us to the airport. And I just remember I was so sad when I was with my mom. She came and saw me at the hotel because it was by her work. So they recruiters all took us to this hotel and then they pretty much took us to the fucking airport. So I was just like really sad when I saw my mom like for the last time because I just didn't know if I was ever gonna see her again, I guess, honestly. And I was just like really sad. So um that was that part. Going through boot camp was, you know, like everybody else's. We all share the same stories. We all had the same, pretty much the same experience. It's kind of like growing up in the 90s. We all played with the same fucking toys. We all listened to the same music. That's how boot camp was, pretty much. Experiences. Nothing, nobody discriminated me about it. The only thing I didn't like was just, everybody used the bathroom at the same time and everybody took a shower at the same time. I was just like, I think that was like the I guess privacy was the part for me,
Yeah.
like you just didn't get none. And after that, graduated boot camp, went to A school, of course, like what everybody else does, and then graduating A school and then getting that time back to go home. When I went home, it was different. Um, Everyone kind of like stopped talking to each other, which was sad. Um, Thomas moved, 4 states away. Sabrina moved, like 4 hours away. Um, Everybody was just kind of gone, and going back home, it was just different. I mean, the bar was still there, Charlie was still there, my ex-boss was still there, the cook and everybody else, but the main people I wanted to go visit were not there. And that was kind of hard, but I still hung out at Charlie's every day. And I went in uniform to Rhonda's little, um, she worked at Rocky so which is in Forest Park, Georgia. It was like another job she had, and have like an actual like moral for her, like a whole like memory thing because she doesn't have a grave. She has ashes, so I couldn't like go visit the grave. So I went to her old job, and they have like a little picture and a candle lit every day for her, and like a little table. And I went in uniform, and I just remember the whole time going through boot camp and stuff like that. I just remember being like, "Girl, you better help me with this one because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing." Especially when it was like battle stations and shit, and
Oh yeah.
you got to go through all this shit. And I'm just like, girl, you better help me with this one, bitch. I need help. That's
I'll
how.
tell you what, all I know is when I took a knee in battle station, when I tell you take a knee or whatever, I was like, God damn, this floor is hurting, man. Is this what no wonder somebody motherfuckers disabled. This floor sucks.
I just remember they were talking about shooting the guns, and you had to pass, and then you had to pass this, and you have to pass that. And I just remember I was just like, "Girl, you better help me with this today." I just remember I it started me accepting that she was gone. I was still sad, but I was starting to like, I guess I was kind of going crazy because I was talking to myself as if I was talking to her, But it was just so funny because I remember I went to her little thing at the Rockies thing, and I mean, I was just like, we made it. And people were still talking shit. People at my jobs were still talking shit. They were still like, oh, you still have to pass the other boot camp. I'm thinking, bitch, there ain't no fucking other boot camp. People that ain't even in the military trying to tell you some shit. They're like, oh, well, he passed the little boot camp, but he still got to pass the big test. I'm thinking, bitch, there ain't no other fucking test. I already took my rate. I'm going to the fucking shit. Like, stop talking shit, bitch. Like, that's what kind of like pissed me off. It's like people, even though you succeeded, they can just never tell you congratulations, even if it's like a fake congratulations. People do that. I do that sometimes when somebody wins an award that should have been for somebody else. You're like, oh, congratulations, but really, it's not congratulations. It's like, fuck you. You know. Like you couldn't even tell me that. You couldn't even go tell me like a fuck you, congratulations. You wanted to hate, and I was so pissed about that. So I went to my first ship, which was Theodore Roosevelt,
Hell
and
yeah, USS Theodore Roosevelt CVN 71, the best motherfucking crew in the United States Navy. Gonna say it. It is what it is. Don't hate, motherfuckers. It is what it is.
I did enjoy that ship. I enjoyed it the most from like 2016 to 20. I would say 18.
Mm.
Was probably the
My
best
favorite
crew.
thing about you were down there in the mess decks, right?
Yeah,
So you know that pillar covered in that rope work that's painted.
yeah.
I did that shit in my free time. I would do fancy work on all the stuff. It's a part of my lasting legacy that no one will be able to ever remove from that place. I did fancy work all over that ship in my free time. I take paracord. With that, I use this little it's almost like the stuff you use to hang out your clothes. You were in the South, that shit. You hang out your clothes on the clothesline outside, right? See that cheap ass rope. And I did it, and they painted it. I painted it down there, and I remember everyone was doing whatever, and they walked by me, and I'm just sitting there. I took off my coveralls all the way down to the halfway, and I remember one day the XO walked up, and he's like, "Shipmate, what are you doing? Unbloused?" And I said, "Well, sir, I'm working." And I just it went back to minding my own goddamn business, and he didn't like that too much, but it's okay. It's not for everybody. But when I'm working, let me work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was able to do that, and God, that's one of my favorite things. I just remember everybody was walking by like, what the hell is this motherfucker doing? That's something that's never going to be able to disappear from the ship unless they cut it off, and if they do, they suck.
That's dope you did that. Yeah, there was a lot of fancy work around that ship, and
Yeah, there
that's cool to do
was.
that. That's really cool that it was you. I just thought it was. I mean, when you come in, you're like new in the Navy, like you just think like that's like a Navy tradition, or you're just like, look at this fucking rope over here. You like,
Like what? Like who really wrapped this shit? Me.
yeah, that's what now I know who it is.
And
Look,
the
I'm like,
starboard davit, where they launched the boats, where the gym was, all that. Yeah, me. The emergency steering area, or sorry, not the emergency steering, but the emergency diesel generators that we have. We have the ESGs, right? So
yeah,
we had four of them, and I did the whole room down there, and then reactor painted it. And but I did so much fancy work on that damn ship, and it's something that I got reminded that it'll never be removed. But my buddy's like, dude, I still see it to this day. I went over there last week, and I'm like, damn, that's something that's really really interesting because you were able to see it as well.
yeah, that's so cool. I just remember I was thinking, who the fuck did this? Because they wouldn't pay me enough fucking money to do this stupid shit.
Shit.
Because
But
like, you always think like somebody had to get told to do it, and they were probably like hating their life, but then they find out that you did it, and you just did it just for fun. Like,
yeah, I was
you know,
bored,
kind of,
man.
it's kind of dope to like see that it wasn't just some chief had a like foot up his ass and
No.
you know. So that's dope.
Also,
Yeah,
the halyards, how they raise the flags, I hand spliced them. So the halyards were old as shit, and the halyards is what they use to hoist the flags. So I got a post, and they're like, "Hey, you know, does anybody here know how to splice, you know, how to splice this stuff?" And I was like, "I can figure it out." And I said, but it's gonna cost you. And they said, what's it gonna cost me? I said, I want a motherfucking hat. First of all, I want a hat from whichever department wants me to do it. I need dip. I need one of them. I need somebody to hold a red flashlight all night while I do it, and at least 3 Red Bulls a night. Got it done in 2 days.
Oh, no.
Yeah, man. Too much fun. Too much fun.
Fun on that ship, and when I remember when I first went on, I always had like a little, I guess, sassy walk to what people say, or catwalk or whatever. But that's because um, that's how, like William wanted me to walk, and now it's just like a habit, it's just
Swag.
how I walk. Yeah, this is how I walk now. Like I'm always on a fucking catwalk or whatever. And I remember I was walking, it was my first day on that ship. And I actually talked to this senior chief. We laugh about it now. I'm not gonna put his name because he might get mad, but we actually laugh about it now. But I remember I was saluting on. I was so new. I didn't know you had to salute 5,000 times to get on the fucking ship, but apparently you do. So I was saluting on, like permission to come aboard, whatever. And I was like walking away, and the senior chief came up to me and was like, "Shipmate, shipmate." You always know, shipmate is like calling somebody, a racist.
Ayo, little bitch.
Yeah, to me, it's like it's the equivalent of like somebody saying some racist shit to you. You know what I mean? Like a racist. You know how people call Mexicans this, and they call this person that.
Yeah.
So it's like a racist Navy lingo. When anybody calls you fucking shipmate, it's not. I'm calling you shitmate because you can never say it back. I can't say shitmate back because then they get pissed. I am not
in a positive
shitmate.
light.
Okay. Yeah. So
they're talking down to your ass. Yeah.
Like shipmate. And I'm like, yes, see, well, at that time I think he was a chief. And I was like, yes, chief. And he was like, you can't walk like that on the ship. And I was like, walk like what? Walk normal. And I was like, I am walking normal. You know what I mean? I've been walking like this since I was fucking like 13. So what do you mean walk normal? And he was like, walk like this. And he was trying to like spread his legs out and show me how to walk. So I started doing it. And he was like, never fucking mind. You look ridiculous. Go back to walking how you walking. He was like, you can't be that extra. And I was like, I'm not trying to be extra. I'm just saying I can't walk how you're trying to tell me how to walk. And we in the theater, we actually we about it. We joke about it now. And he was just saying that like I just walked so fucking gay, and he just could not believe it. But but he's nice about it. He's not like no like dick or prick or like
big
racist person or
yeah,
he's not like that. He's very funny. He's very funny. He's a really nice person in general, and he's really well known. That's pretty much why they want to say his name. But yeah, it was just funny because we just laugh about it now. And he was like, yeah, when I first saw you, I just could not believe that is how you walk. But going in, I never really experienced like a lot of like prejudice or racist or anything like that. And going through boot camp, it really showed you. I mean, it showed you, it ain't, but it showed you that the Navy is like a brotherhood, and you look out for each other and stuff like that. And I've never experienced anything like that. I mean, like in boot camp, now that when you're in the regular Navy, all that shit goes out the window. But in the Navy, going through boot camp, they make you lean on each other and really rely on each other. If I look fucked up, help me. If need help putting on something or something, everybody just so there and helping you and stuff like that. And I never experienced anything like that in life. It's always myself, minus when I'm at friends. But even then, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this is how like I can depend on someone, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I don't have to second guess that person. And that's what I liked about it.
You build trust. Looking at the person next to you, you know that they'll.
And it was a bunch of trust.
They'll throw fists for you. They're gonna throw a fit over some shit you do. They're gonna be there for you, and they're always gonna be there. As soon as that goddamn E1, 2, or 3 paycheck run out at the bar, they're gonna be there with they got your back. They got your back. We're gonna figure it out. You can pay it back next time.
Right. And that's what I liked about it. It was everybody helping everybody. And I just never had to rely on somebody else. I always, when it came to life or anything I was doing, I always relied on myself, and I always, I mean, because I was alone for a lot, and I always was at war with the world. It felt right by myself, and now it was like I have a family that will pretty much, technically, honestly, go to war with me. 'Cause, I mean,
100%.
so that's what I liked about it, and um, I met this real good friend of mine. His name was in Fasto, Logan and Fasto, and we went to A school together. We went to the same ship. It was me, Logan, and Carlos, which is this other dude I was really close with at A school. And Logan, we went to A school. We hung out every day after school. We and then to find out they were both these people that I'm close with are going to the same ship as me made it even better. It made me even happier because I was like, at least I'm going with somebody I know, and it's somebody I've known for a couple of months. Because with the military, it's like your first year, you meet so many people that you probably never meet again or never see, just because you're going from boot camp to A school to this to that to your first command. So, and some people go to A school and then C school and then their command. All these people, you meet people that are limbo, and you meet people that failed out of school, or people that went to boot camp and couldn't pass. Like, you meet all these people just all over the world, and that's what I liked about it. And it was so diverse. It wasn't, you know, the military is just so diverse. It's not just like one type of person. It's, people from different backgrounds and people from all over the world. So it's just different because you're actually like meeting people that you thought you would never like. Somebody from Sri Lanka. I didn't even know what Sri Lanka was, honestly. Dropped out of high school. Like, I knew it was like, like interviews was about it, know like where it was and how it was and what it looked like. And then you meet people like from Panama, and Sri Lanka and the Philippines and stuff like that, and you're hearing their lifestyle. And I just was always so invested into like different people's culture because I thought it was
Mm.
cool, like
Yeah.
different parts of the world, do they live like we live, or do they live differently? And you start learning, the ways that they live and the stuff that they eat. I was always fascinated with the food that culture could give. And that was one thing. And I remember um getting on the ship, and after that it's just like a 9 to 5 job. And then we went on deployment, and I was so happy about going on deployment because um I always told Rhonda we were going to travel together. So every time we pulled in a port, the first place I would go to was whatever beach, and I would write her and William's name in the sand, and just kind of sit there and watch waves, like take it with them. And I just thought it was I thought like me putting their names and stuff like that, it was like I'm like marking like this area that, like we've been here. And just watching, the waves, like the first thing as soon as we pulled in, that's where I would go. It was just to do something like that and watch it. And then I was good. I could do, with my Liberty Buddy when we went to like ports where you need the Liberty Buddies, whatever you want to do afterwards, just let me do this one thing.
Mm.
And um watch the waves take it away. And then I'm like, all right, we can do whatever the fuck you want to do now for the rest of the day. I just needed this one thing. And mostly, well, the first port was like Guam, you didn't need a Liberty Buddy and stuff like that. So those ports, Guam and Hawaii, I really didn't need um, a Liberty Buddy to do what I wanted to do. And then, you go souvenir shopping, how it is, go to the club, all that. Each port, um, you closer and closer with your like buddies. And then after deployment, after pulling back in, I think this was like 2018, we pulled back in at the beginning, or yeah, something like that. A couple months went by, or like a 4 or 5 months, you're hanging out with all the E1s and hanging around each other. At this point, I think I was at E4. I finally made rank, and I was so excited I made rank or stuff like that, which you always are. And this, I was walking to work one day and just going to the smoke pit, because that's where you get all like the gossip from, the tea, the gossip. What happened on the weekend? What who fucked up this weekend? And just going to the smoke pit, but it was a different vibe in the air. It was a more calm vibe and a more sad vibe, you know, and I wanted to know what was going on because you could just feel it in the air. Everybody was walking around differently. Everybody was, you know, like kind of looking at each other and not talking and stuff like that. And I was going to work, and at this point, I've already been on the ship almost a year, maybe a year and a half. I think, yeah, think about a year and a half. Yeah, going on 2 years. And I walked to the smoke pit, and you know, people are like, "Oh, did you hear? Did you hear?" And anytime somebody says, "Do you hear?" and they say it like that, you just know it's some like fucked up shit, and you're like, "Well, what happened?" You know, but you don't know if it's like a DUI or did somebody like get in a fight or, you know. But they were like, "Oh, in Fosto," and I'm like, "What happened? What happened with him? He get DUI? Like, what happened?" Because I mean, that's the first thing people jump to, you know, like first thing you hear in the military is just somebody got DUI, and they were, and it was crazy because that weekend he invited me to a party. He said that he was having a party at his house, but I worked to watch that what day was he having the party? Yeah, so I ended up working that weekend, but Monday is turnover. That's what it was. So Monday is turnover. So because we have like the 5 and 2 schedule, you know, we work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday you come in, you turn over at 8 a.m. and then you go home and you're off. So Monday and Tuesday. So it was turnover. And I was like, "No, what happened?" Da, 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 da. And it was crazy because he invited me to a party that I want to say that night before that Sunday night going into Monday, but I was like, "Hey, like I work, like you know what I mean. I have to be at work. You don't have to come in at 8, 9 o'clock. I have to like, you know what I mean. Like I have to be there at like 4 in the fucking morning. No, I'm not going to no fucking party." But I didn't say it like that. I was just like, "Oh no, I can't. Like I gotta do this. I gotta do that." Um, and I also want to say this was a. I don't know if this was a lead period. I don't know what it was, or was people off Monday minus the watch. It might have been a holiday. I forgot what it was.
Mm.
You know, where they give you the 96s and the 72s and stuff like that. I think it might have been like this, but we still had to go in because we're to watch. So I just remember going to the smoke pit and people like, "Did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear?" And everybody's like walking, you know, for work to turn over and stuff. And they're like, "In Fasto, in Fasto." And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And he ended up driving to like the top of the fucking Coronado Bridge and jumping off, like while his party was going on at his house. And it was so sad because it was the first time that you always hear about suicide in the military, the Navy, and it was the first time that I actually witnessed it. But at this point, here I go again, like you know, I'm tired of it. You know, I was so tired of it. First, you know, it's William, then it's Rhonda, and now somebody else that I'm a friend with is now committing like suicide. And I'm like, I'm just done with being surrounded by death. I just was like, "God, am I like the angel of fucking death? Like, what the fuck is it? You know, like what is going on? Like, why do you keep doing this?" And every time somebody died, it just seems like it's just easier to cope with. I mean, it's you just become numb to it eventually, you know, after going through the grieving and then the okay and then this and then that. It's just like now it's just like I would expect nothing less, you know. And you just start becoming so numb to it. And with him, I was upset, I was sad. Um, I don't think I actually started crying until they do that little ceremony at the
Proposal.
church. Yeah, at the church and they do the taps, they play taps, and I mean it gets me every fucking
God
time.
damn.
It definitely made me cry, and I was trying to be strong for everybody. I wasn't as close to him as some of the other people that actually was like hung out with him every single day. Me and Logan hang out probably like once a week, but we definitely. But you know, on the ship after doing a deployment with somebody and you're there every day with that
They're
person,
like
you know, work
family
together.
at that point.
Yeah,
They're
it's
they're
like family.
family.
It's hard to explain because it's not like I hung out with this person 24/7 or lived with him,
But
but
there's a piece of the day that's missing because you're not seeing them do whatever they do to make
Yeah.
the Navy run. And that's what the uppers in the military need to fucking get it together and understand that these aren't just sailors committing suicide. This is a piece of what makes the Navy. And you cannot be fleet ready if you're having a bunch of people regularly, excuse my language. It just might completely fell apart there. Regularly and in their own life in a time where there's no physical conflict in war. You can't go to war if you're not ready to rock.
Yes, and I definitely agree with that, and I agree with the fact that it's just you see this person every day. You know what I mean? And you go from seeing this person every day to the rack is empty, or you go to seeing this person every day to you don't joke things. I could joke with him that I couldn't joke with other people about. So it was just, and he was fun. He was funny. He was, the whole division got hit by it because it was just like he was just like one of them people that always smiling and always happy and stuff like that. And to see them, hear them do something like that, it was very hard. And it even, I won't say broke a lot of friendships, but he was like the glue to like his clique, and his selective view. And when, I mean, he died, we just all stopped talking to each other, like we just didn't hang out. He brought us all together, and I like that about him. And that was sad. And when I first joined the military, like the Navy, and I was first on the TR, there was a dude. There was a couple. I hung out with, you hang out with a couple of people you work with, and I hung out with this other girl named Carney, and we would always Carney and Mershon. We would always go run the seawall every day after work, the mile and a half to get ready for the PRT, and then we would run to the bar right after the bowling alley, and go drink. I need some drinks after today's work, and we would drink a couple beers, and then we would go back to the ship because at this point we would stay on the ship and we didn't have barracks, so there was only so much you could do. Liberty Center, bowling alley, run. That was pretty much it, and none of us had a car at the time, so I mean that was all we did. And there was a dude that would always be at the bar, and his name was Helga Stat. And he was always like a funny dude, funny, but he was definitely, you could tell, was like, it reminded me of when I was being an alcoholic. The things that you say and the way that you act, and you could tell he was a big alcoholic. And I remember he didn't work in my division, but I didn't see him around the ship. And I remember I didn't see him for a couple of days because I mean, on the ship you see people at least once a day. Somebody that you're cool with. You always see him just in the P-way or something. You'll be like, oh, that person's good. I see him. Da, 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 da. But I didn't see him. I didn't see him for like a couple of days. And come to find out, he was another one that committed suicide. And I was just like, damn, like it's starting to get normal. And people would always make things like, well, it always happens in threes. It always happens in threes. And I was just like, damn, like that's crazy. And apparently it did happen in threes. Somebody else on the ship ended up committing suicide, but I didn't know them, nor did I ever speak to them. I just know it was somebody in like, I think they were either an engineering or they might have been like, look, in your department.
It's a serious issue. It really is. It's plaguing the United States military. It's plaguing the veteran community. It's something that there's a lot of different questions are centered around. Why is this happening? What can we do differently? How do we stop it? Is a huge question, right? There's so many different ways that we can approach this thing, but I think a very similar thing where I'm interacting with soldiers and sailors and Marines, Coast Guardsmen, whatever the hell they call the guys in the Air Force, no one knows. But like I think airmen or something, right? Whatever it is that they're feeling,
right?
That lack of something, it's a lot of times associated with identity and purpose. So not being comfortable with who you are because society says not to be comfortable, or not being okay with your pathway because you feel like you don't have a purpose. You feel like you're fulfilling someone else's but not your own. And it's really, really sad because me transitioning out of the military, I've experienced those feelings. The suicidal ideations do show up. I'm thankful now that I'm at a place where I'm not going through a tough time. Last year was devastating for me. 24 friends of mine took their own life, and I haven't had a single friend this year so far, commit suicide. And that's a huge awesome thing to personally celebrate. But a lot of my friends have a different story to say. They just lost their friend last week or the week before. Some people I have friends that are commanders, family members that are commanders, losing their sailors, their soldiers, their airmen. What do you think is a way that we can better this situation on an individual level? So you and me are sitting at a bar right now at the goddamn bowling alley there at Coronado Naval Air Base. What can we do differently to fix how we look at our friends around us, our sailors around us, our brothers or sisters, whatever, not our shipmates. I ain't gonna say that shit, but how do we help each other?
Yeah. So here's what I think when it comes to sailors committing suicide, and not just sailors, but military people in general. I think it becomes a time to where it's lack of trust in the chain of command. For one, they always say, open door policy. If you have help, you have something bothering you, or you're in trouble, or you need this, you need guidance. You can come into my office anytime. And let's say you do need help, and you're going through something. A lot of these people go through real life crisis, that is making them feel this type of way, whether it be them getting a divorce or stuff isn't working financially and stuff like that, and they need guidance. And you go to the chain of command because you need help. Some of these, they have to remember, some of these cats are like 19, 20, who have never experienced a credit card, who has never experienced getting your and at the some people, this is their job, and some people have been married 15 years, 10 years, 8 years, and this is their first time away from home, away from, they're 30 years old and they've been married since they were 18, and this is their first time. They don't have their kids there, have their children there, or the wife is making making it hard at home because they're gone all the time, and they're not there to help raise the kids, and daddy's not here, or mama's not here, people aren't here, and you go to the chain of command, you ask for help, and they just kind of like not help you, tell you to deal with it. It's for one. For two, it's when you do open up to your chain of command, they tend to use that against you. They always, it's like they want you could say, oh yeah, I'm going through a hard time, I need to go into DAPA because, I'm drinking and stuff like that. And you'll blow up one day at work because something really pissing you off, or you just have a lot on your mind, and the chain of commands will be like, oh, he only doing that because he probably feeding for alcohol with his drunk ass, and they make real shitty comments, and it's like at this point, it's like, why do I even trust? Like, why would I even trust you? For one, for two, it's even just in like prime example. A week ago, it was Mardi Gras, and I asked, TAD the security right now, and I asked the person that's in charge of us. I said, hey, it's Mardi Gras. I work Saturdays and Sundays, but I was like, hey, it's Mardi Gras. I honestly am asking for a huge favor. I've been in security for 6 months. I have not asked them for nothing huge. I have not asked them, never been late, never had never nothing, right? So I was like, hopefully they understand. I was like, hey, it's Mardi Gras. I'm having, a Mardi Gras party on Saturday night, and Sunday, I'm telling y'all right now, I'm be drunk. Is there any way that I can take special leave? I'll take leave if I need to, like anything. And they're like, oh no, we'll give you the day off. And I was like, oh, perfect, great, yay. You know, um, so closer to the date, because I told them a month in advance, because I had this plan, like I was getting crawfish and stuff shipped out from Louisiana, so I already had all of this planned out and stuff. So I had like gumbo and dirty rice. I had Cajun ribs,
Oh shit,
chicken
man! I need to
wings,
come down, hang out with y'all. That's what I'm talking
right?
about. What?
King cake. I had king cake. I had cupcakes I decorated to make it look like mini king cakes. I had, the chocolate covered Oreos and the chocolate covered pretz. Everything laid out in crawfish boil. That was like the crawfish and shrimp. I had 60 pounds of crawfish. I had about 20 pounds of shrimp, potatoes, corn, sausage, all the even eggs. I even had boiled eggs. I had everything. So, and people put money in towards this, like my friends, we all got together and we all um got together and chipped in money for this to ship it because it was about $2,000. But when you have 30 people, it's only like probably like $50, $60 per person or some shit. I don't know. Maybe $100 per person. I forgot. I know I put down 200, but that's because I went extra. I had to be a little bit extra than everybody else, and I was the one hosting it, so I wanted decorations and stuff like that. And I always want to go out big for Mardi Gras because that where I'm from, that's so big. That's our holiday. That's our Christmas, honestly, in Louisiana. So I just remember asking Chain of Command, could I have the day off? And they tell me yes. And to the day before the thing, they tell me I can't. And it's like, don't promise me something that you are not gonna give me, for one. And for two, it's real fucked up because like I trusted you as a chain of command. I trusted y'all as a chain of command. And y'all can do this one thing. And I even said I would take leave. And now you tell me the day before I can even put in a leave to get requested. And it's a fucking Saturday. So no, nobody's on the damn computer. So like y'all really fucked me with that. And do you think they care? No. Do they gave fuck? No. And that's honestly what it is. Like in the Navy, it's just simply that stuff. You can tell them you need help or you have to go to something for your child or anything like that. And there's another prime example too. Um, there's actually an OS2 that I talked to, and she was going through because they don't have childcare. CDC is pretty backed up, and they don't have the money for big childcare because they have a house and stuff like that, and they have a kid, and they can't. They wouldn't. She couldn't be on the watch bill for duty because she wouldn't have childcare, as her husband is on a ship, and he goes in and out, and she stays here. So her husband was on like an underway or whatever, and she was here, and I think he was on like a week underway or 2 week underway or whatever, and she was saying that she couldn't stand duty because she didn't have childcare and stuff like that, and that she has to pick her kid up. She would still do her job. She would come in at 8 and she'd get off at 12. Um, but she was saying that she couldn't do the duty day because she don't have childcare and CDC and stuff like that, and she don't have to be paying somebody to watch her child because they own a house. They military don't pay you shit any fucking way.
Yeah,
And they
man. These goddamn here we're gonna pay you 70,000 a year. Y'all some liars. They lied. It's a lie. It's a recruiting lie.
And her chain of command had to sit down with her and told her that she needs to ship her kids off, both her kids, because she has two, that she needs to ship her kids off to her parents that stay 4 or 5 states over if she can't get her child care this. And that's fucked up because both her
That's
parents
insanity.
are military. Both her
Jesus
parents are military.
Christ.
And that she needs to activate her child care plan or family care plan and ship her kids off because she cannot not stand duty and she's on fucking shore duty. Well, the duty ain't even a real fucking duty. I can understand like on a ship, yeah, but you're like both your parents are here for God's sakes. Like, and she trusted the chain of command and telling them this, and they instead of them helping her, what do? Is make her find a way. And what do you think that does to somebody in the military? It makes them have depression. It makes them go through things. Why make somebody go through something harder than what it should be of just being like, hey, we won't give you duty until we get you in the CDC? Or why not help her find a spot in CDC or contact CDC and say, hey, we really need a sailor to have a spot in CDC and stuff like that, instead of helping her with childcare? Make it worse for her. And that's why people lose their minds. That's why people go through depression, I feel like, because there's no trust in the chain of command. And I know it's not just them to blame. There's stuff in people's friends and family and stuff like that. But you never want to tell your best friend, I'm going through a hard time. Or you never want to tell your mom that you're having depression or you're going through a hard time. You always want it to seem like you're doing fine because you don't want people to worry about you and stuff like that. And when you go to the chain of command, they're like you're kind of like your extended parents, honestly, because that's how they fucking treat you, like you're a fucking child. So, you go to them and trust them for stuff. And just like an off day, like I trust you to give me an off day, even though I said I was going to do it the right way, and y'all took it away from me just because we're so low on Manning or whatever the fuck they try to tell you, or they give you some stupid excuse that isn't the fucking truth. It's just because y'all didn't want me to have the fucking off day. And that's another thing. The military wants to keep you all day. Why, if I finish a job at 9, am I here till fucking 5 o'clock? Just sitting, waiting around when I could be at home with my family and stuff. We are already,
Morale
about
is
to go
low.
to deployment.
Morale
Yeah, well,
is low as hell. We cannot have poor leadership in the military. It just can't be a thing because, and I've been critiqued a lot for this. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say you're spitting some bullshit. I would argue this: if you have poor leadership about small stuff like getting off of work, keeping sailors late, making sure that their morale is low during a peacetime, what the fuck do you think is going to happen to war? Are you going to be doing extra unnecessary things to exert the morale, exert the focus, and deteriorate your team structure? Because your team structure does not just immediately go, oh yeah, we're just embracing the suck. It sucks out here today. Oh, I hate my life. Smiles on face. It doesn't work. We're human beings. We're human fucking beings, and I think that it's important that we look at how we lead our sailors, how we lead our families back home in the civilian world, and how we shepherd our flock. We can all be leaders, no matter what our rank is, none of that shit. How we look out for our tribe, our family, our military friends. That is what creates that positive thing to combat poor leadership. But without the ability to do that, without the goddamn crawfish that you ordered and that coming together, there can't be a steady, okay, we're all going through this together. It's just unhappiness.
I can also, for anybody that says like, oh, that was trying to argue the fact of, staying there all day or whatever, I can kind of like tell you something about that. When COVID hit the United States and the world, there was people, the military was at bare minimum, like 3 people in the galley type stuff, and people could say, oh, well, y'all are not feeding. Yes, we were feeding people quarantine. We were making the galley I work at, we serve regularly 300 people daily for 3 meals. So about 900 people daily. We were making hot plates for 3,000 people from both carriers, from even the tenant commands of people staying in quarantine, to even hotel rooms where they were coming and picking them up and taking them to people's hotel room. And we did it with 3 people. That right there shows me that I don't need 13 people in my fucking galley when it's a regular day. There was commands that realized that they can get more work done at home than coming in, and them commands still only muster once a week because they can get stuff more done. They're more successful at home than they were, when they went to an office every day. Because you know how it goes when you go to the office. You go in, you're late because of your Starbucks. When I had an office job and I was working admin, late because of Starbucks. My lunch was a 2-hour lunch. It was supposed to be from 9 to 10. That shit was from 9 to 11. You walk around the ship. Somebody asks you where somebody's at. You could be like, oh, they're in the bathroom. That on the ship, that's going to buy you another hour and a half because they're not going to go fucking look. They're going to come back in an hour and a half and be like, oh, where's so-and-so? And you could be like, oh, that person, they went to Wardroom 1 and 2, which is on the 03 level. You're safe for the rest of the day. They never gonna ask you where that person at again, because after you say 1 and 2 and 03, they are not walking their ass up there. That's safe, of course. So what you think happened? No work was getting done. We were just all doing that with each other. Oh, they went they went to Cheese Best. Like, oh, they went to Abgalia. Oh, they went to, Ford Galley. Oh, they went here. That motherfucker went home 3 hours ago and y'all still looking for her. Like, no, because that's how it went. And all these commands were starting to see during COVID that they were getting, wow, we're getting more work done. Because people are now comfortable and they want to work and they will work because they're not just sitting there all day getting work done and nothing happening. So with me, if they're saying clean 1 and 2, I would clean 1 and 2 with my team and we'd be done in 2 hours and they would still make us stay there. So instead of me, and they would still make us stay there till 3 o'clock. So now tomorrow we're just gonna stretch this shit all fucking day. We're gonna do this because it don't matter if we do it quick or not. We're gonna be here all fucking day. So we might as well not even start till 10 since it only takes us 2 hours. So now that people are staying at home and they're seeing that, oh, once they get their work done, they can just log out and they're already at home. What do you think people do? It more shit was getting done. And another thing about the suicide and chain of command, it was crazy because when I made second class, I was in charge of Wardroom 3 and I was in charge of the FSAs and I was galley soup and I was kind of thrown into this job, into the wolves, because I didn't know nothing about this job or what it came with or anything. I went from, the TR within my first 4 years. I went from Steaming Kathy to CS2 Kathy, SWAW, just so everybody know. So
Yeah.
I went and there was actually a BM. He was a BM Shepherd, and he worked for me. And he worked for me, and he was a really hard worker. A lot of people said that he was a troublemaker, but he never gave me a troublemaker or anything like that. But he was going through a hard time, and I remember he was going through a hard time, and he was telling me, all this about his family and stuff like that, and that he needed to take leave. And I mean, this was going on for about 2 to 3 months. And finally, he was talking to me. I'm like, well, why don't you just take leave? You know what I mean? And he was like, well, nobody ever showed me how. And I was like, well, I can do it for you. I can show you. Just put your put your card in. And I put in the leave for him. And I was like, well, just give me an update. I think this was like on a Friday. And I was like, update me on Monday. Let me know what your chain of command said. So on Monday, he comes in and he's like so upset. And he's like, oh, they won't let me take leave. And I'm like, why? I was like, nobody can deny it but the CO. So I was like, they can say no all they fucking want to, but why? And he was like, well, my chain of command says I don't have a replacement because he was an FSA, that he don't have a replacement for the FSA. I was like, I have 9 of y'all. Honestly, I'll go back there and do the fucking dishes if I have to. Like, I still have 8, and I only need 3 FSAs. The fucking wardroom is only so big, So
Yeah.
I was just kind of mad about it. So I went to his chain of command and I was cussing the fucking chief out. Never forget his ass telling me to stay in my place, da 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 da. And I was pissed. I was like, fuck you. Like, I didn't say fuck you, but I was
What
like,
is it back
honestly,
in deck, right? Deck department?
Yeah, deck
And
department.
what year?
This was 2016, 17, 18. There had to be 18, right before.
The white chief, a little bit heavier set, brown hair.
Yeah, and there was a black one too.
Oh yeah. Well, and then the black one had a stutter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about Chief Pender and then motherfucking BMC Myers.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, honestly, where my eval, you don't do nothing for me, but I'm just saying your sailor needs to go and leave. And honestly, I don't need a replacement. And they got mad, of course, they fucking try to cuss me out and shit or whatever. But I'm telling them like,
but you got there first though. You cussed them out first, so you're the victor.
Right. So what happened was the dude they kept denying his leave. And what they kept doing was when we would put it in on the computer, instead of denying it, they would recycle it. So it wouldn't go up farther.
This is why sailors commit suicide.
Oh, I'm not done. Oh, no. Yeah. So they would, every time I put it in, and it was because his grandfather was honestly, because his grandfather was on his deathbed. I remember he was saying that his grandfather was about to die. And because that wasn't his immediate family or his mom or dad, that they didn't care or whatever. And, you know, his grandfather ended up dying, and we kept trying to put the leave, and they kept trying to recycle it. And I kept trying to ask other chiefs to help and help. And of course, other chiefs was like, well, that's not our department. That's not our department. But what happened was,
That's a problem.
Shepard, I go into work, I think like a couple of days after, and they tell me that he committed suicide. He hung himself. Yeah.
Man,
And I was so upset because, you know, and deck department had like this little thing, and I wanted to go up there so bad and cut some chiefs out because honestly, they're the reason for that shit. All the dude wanted to do was go home and see his dying grandfather. And y'all can't even give that to him. And now, now, y'all were complaining because y'all couldn't find a replacement for the, you know, TAD or whatever. Now you have no fucking choice. And it just really just pissed me off because I was so hurt,
damn, man.
I remember crying because I was so pissed.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I never hung out with the kid outside of work, but he was still one of my FSAs. He was still, and that's when somebody who's working under me, that's somebody that I look out for.
It's like a
And
nephew. It's like a nephew. Yeah, you're part of your
and
family.
I cried. I cried when I got home. I thought it was the saddest thing. I couldn't stop thinking about it because I was so fucking pissed. And I was just so mad about it. And it just made me, I don't know, I would just cry so many tears because I was so angry. Like, I just remember wanting to strangle the chief because, like, y'all just did him so dirty. And yes, he wasn't the perfect worker. Yes, he showed up late. Yes, but we're all human. You know what I mean? Don't take it out on somebody because they are going through a hard time. And it seems like as soon as he was going through a hard time, they were just going harder on him as a person. You know, they was inspecting his rack and telling him that he needs to go do this and do that. And I walked up there with him because he was like, "See, it's too. My rack's not even that dirty. Look, look." And I was like, "Where do you stay?" And I had to walk all the way to the motherfucking Burden, the BM Burden. And
Yeah,
his rack wasn't dirty. I think he had a laundry bag on top of it. But everybody has a fucking laundry bag
everybody
on
has
top
a
of
laundry bag on top of that shit, right on top of the itchy scratchy blanket.
Yeah, like on top of it because you're either about to do laundry or you can't fit that shit in your motherfucking locker or your thing. So yes, everybody has a laundry basket, and they
You
were
don't want to
telling
put
him,
the dirty laundry where it's like in a small space where it's all stinking in there, you know. So you need to let that shit
yeah,
breathe. The fuck?
and they were like picking on him, his whole chain of command, and I just saw it first action, and it just honestly let me just know that um I was like I just could not believe, and within being on the TR, I've known of 5 suicides, but how many there was on the TR has probably been more than that. That's
It's
just ones that
insanity.
I've interacted with. And
Insanity,
it just,
insanity and heartbreak. I cannot believe that shit. You know what? It kills me. It absolutely kills me because I served with these motherfuckers. The two people you're talking about.
yeah,
I I I've served with people before them. You know, Chief Brontes. If you were going through a tough time, that motherfucker would make sure you're taken care of.
right.
If you're serving with Senior Chief Osbury, he would make sure you're taken care of. You know, Chief Bunton. I can go. I go on a list. I go. You know, Mr. Banks. Everybody. Everybody that I served with, they would never allow somebody else to be in a point of turmoil and not send him. I got taken care of so well when my, you know, we were out at sea at a time, and my dad was dying, and they took the best care of me. I was surrounded with love, and I tell you what, I've stood on the edge of an aircraft carrier and wanted to commit suicide. I have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I was trapped on a ship, fucking 3 days to live with my dad. He was dying of leukemia. Like, there's no way to fix it. There's no way to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of even going home? Just like at that time, and you know, being stuck on that ship, thinking like, who what am I gonna do if I didn't have a beautiful team? If I didn't have BM2 Anderson, if I didn't have Shin, if I didn't have I can name people. I can go on a list on a tangent here, but I don't want to because it's everybody. It's a different culture when I was serving versus now, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
serious issue, and we don't need to
It,
lower our standards like that douchebag said. Yeah, he is a douchebag. I'm glad his wife left him, the McPon at the time, who said we need to lower our standards, because it's not true. We don't need to lower our standards. We need to increase our standards of leadership. Take care of your junior sailors. Care about the person next to you. Empathy, compassion, these traits, they don't make us bitches. They make us better. And it's good to have them.
I do think that a lot too, and I think that chain of commands just need to take better care when it comes to people asking questions. Being in the Navy, and in a couple of years, I had so many, I did so many admiral events. I cooked for so many high officials, and I was even on a Navy culinary arts team, and I was moving up like really, because I always had that fire of Rhonda and Will just like living inside of me, and I just wanted to do good. I won big boss of the TR. I did different things, and my evals were always EP, and I tried so hard and wanted the best. And when it came to like the Steel Beach picnics and stuff like that, that was always my favorite time, was brunch, and anything extra. I love extra shit. So when it was any time like that, and it was holiday meals, and the chain of commands, I hate that shit, but I loved it because it was something different, and I felt like we were actually providing love to the crew. And I never like to see anybody go hungry. I mean, I know Swick BM3, you can ask her. There'll be many times she would come up, and people, on the TR, was some of the CSs are kind of just rude and like, what can you do for me? But I never like to see anybody go hungry. And every time, like, it just hurt my heart, it hurt my soul. Like when somebody would come up and be like, I'm so hungry, and I'm just like, well, let me go back there and make you something. Like, nobody deserves to go hungry, especially, on the ship, and you're working. And I remember Swick would come up to me a lot and be like, my guys and I just are hungry, and we got watch. And I'm like, girl, I got you.
Deck department gets shafted so much with the unrep, GQ, the unrep, the late watch. We're always staying at watch. There's never a time where a deck department, especially underway, is not staying at watch. And men in the boat crew, every time someone jumps off the side of the ship trying to commit suicide, the deck department has to man the boat crew. They see a freaking chem light in the water, we got to man the boat deck, middle of the night, and then people are on watch. You're changing your watch section. Something's wrong. Got to drive the ship from these little tiny ass wheels. You got to be synchronized with the person next to you. They can't develop a metal rod to connect the wheels or the shafts or anything. But you know what? They're always out there. Deck department's always out there. They don't get a break. There's no, hey, y'all did a good job. What every now and then they get their props. But I'm just gonna say it right now. Shout out to deck department for going through the shit and keeping to go through the shit. I wish deck department had better leaders in that time where you lost that sailor. It was unnecessary. That person needed love. And when we take care of each other, that would fix all the issues that they were going on about. Bad mouthing a sailor instead of addressing the problems that he's having at home is not the way. Recycling a fucking leave shit, that's absolutely pathetic. And shame on them. Shame on them. And props to you for having his back.
And the thing is that pissed me off about that, I know I'm getting a little off topic, but when he did commit suicide, they lied about it. We never recycled his leave. I saw it. I logged into his computer. I was on his CAC art. Like, you cannot lie to me. And and then it starts coming to where your chiefs or other chiefs are like, well, you don't really want to talk about that situation.
Yes, you do. Yes, the fuck you do.
Is, I knew that they wouldn't say that because, you don't want to talk about that situation. They were saying that because they were about to have my ass. I was next. You know what I mean? And that's what pissed me off. Like, they were going to come for me. And I didn't like that they won't let you talk about anything. And they're like, you don't want to do that, do you? Because now it's coming. Now, what you're pretty much saying is now you're threatening me without saying that you're threatening me.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. So I was like, you know what? This isn't over. Like, y'all piss me off. I might not talk about it. You might win, haha, but don't ever ask for shit again. And it really just wanted me to take it out on deck department in general. But the thing is, I can't do that. Like, I shouldn't get the fucking heat because your fucking chiefs ain't shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I was just like, it just puts you in a bad predicament because you really can't do shit at that time. I can't do shit to them. I heard,
you know what? You can do something, and you just did. You talked about it. You aired it out. I know the exact chiefs you were talking about. You're talking about BMC Pinder and BMC Myers. You know, he's retired right now. There's something that can be said about honesty, opening up, airing shit out, telling the truth. You're not disparagingly, trashing the Navy. You're not trashing the rank of chief. You're talking about two individuals, and you're brainstorming with me right now about how we can prevent sailor suicide directly. You're bringing up real examples. You're not doing anything to defame anybody. You're telling the truth, and your truth has value. And I'm glad you did, because you know what? I hope this spreads like wildfire. I think we need to air these type of conversations out. We do need to talk about where we've gone wrong and how we can prevent it.
They do like a whole podcast, like with 2 or 3 people, and we just talk about things that we've seen or we've heard or we witnessed, and how the outcome was. I mean, there's many stories of people I know that tried to do something and the chain of command didn't support them, and they're in a different predicament. No, they didn't all commit suicide, but I mean, there was, like one of my homeboys that the chain of command didn't like him, because he was cocky. He was an E3 and he had 3 pins. And honestly, it was because he was cocky, and, they weren't, he moved up, really quickly to 3rd class, and the chain of command had their favorites, and the ones that actual chain of command that he was a favorite moved, and the new chain of command came, and they didn't like him because he was a favorite, and he shitted on all their people. So he was trying to re-enlist, and you know what that chain of command did? Lost his re-enlistment paper where he couldn't re-enlist.
Jesus Christ.
So
That's that shady shit.
He had to go reservist. But what's cool about him is he didn't give up, because he ended up going reservist and then going back active and getting in. But it's that right there that's like the chain of command didn't like you, so they lose your how ironic, they just lose your re-enlistment papers, so you can't re-enlist, and he has to do all this. So by now,
which is crazy, because there's literally like when someone sends military documentation, it goes in a folder with a privacy act statement of 19 whatever the fuck, right, on the front of it. The yeoman's no, I don't know how to do that shit. They have that folder, and there's a checklist. You have to go to this person, this person, this person, your DLCPO, your chief petty officer, your LCPO, whatever the fuck, right? Every single person has to sign it on the way up to get a shit approved, to get something approved. There's like literally a tracking. It's not like a tracking number, but it's a tracking piece of paper. That shit don't just disappear. There's literally someone who has a job of moving the paperwork. It's not like mail. It's like guaranteed this shit will get signed and delivered. You don't just lose shit.
Yeah, so it's just crazy, because he could probably be a 1st class now, and he ended up making 2nd on reserves and then went back active. But he had to do all of that just to stay in and just to be back active, when it was just because they didn't like him, and that's what they fucking had it out for him. And I just thought that was so unfair. Man. I just thought that was so crazy that they have that much power, and it really opened my eyes into military. But what I was saying, what I was trying to say was, I have a lot of people ask me, I've been on, like I said, the NCAT team. I've done so much stuff for admirals and stuff like that, and a lot of people ask me, why don't you go flag? Why don't you go flag? And I would really like to go flag. There was actually one admiral that I wanted to actually go flag for, because of how understanding and how nice he was, and just how cool he was. He could talk to you about old school and R&B and the South and everything. We just had a real good connection. But the reason I don't want to go flag is because there's so many junior sailors out there, and even peers, that just need guidance, that just need love, that just need support, and that just need a family or somewhere that they can just call home, and people say, oh, well, you could go flag and move up. And I could move up really quickly, but I love taking care of people. And I just don't like how the Navy or the military in general will pull good people that like can cook to go cook for officers, when I feel like the crew deserves that more than the officers. And that's why I will not do it. I've took a lot of thought into it. I've been yes, I've been no, I've been yes, I'm gonna do it, no, I'm gonna do it. I've got job offers from the Pentagon, from the Secretary of Defense, and different admirals, just like, Admiral Barnett that wanted me to go with him, and different admirals. And I always say, like, yes, I'm gonna do it. No, I'm gonna do it. No, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I never can make up my mind. But then I see, like this, like, like one of the movies, like this like helpless E3. And I'm just like, and I can't leave them. I can't leave people that need guidance. And I feel like the crew just deserves it. Um,
You're gonna make a great chief.
I just, and
You're
that's
gonna make a great chief. You're gonna be one of them, one of the
yes.
greats for real.
And that's what like makes me mad about like making rank and stuff. Like I always speak my mind, and when I see something messed up, I always air it out. And chain of commands hate me for that. But the thing is, I don't get it. Why would you? There was one time that they were talking about, um, they were looking for a new CO's cook, and somebody mentioned this person. It's like E3, bless his heart, like he really wanted to do it, but he just does it. He doesn't look CO approvable. He has like a beard, and he has, his hair isn't all the way done properly. Um, and stuff like that. But he really wanted to do it, and he was a good cook. And the chain of command was just like no. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you give him a chance? Like honestly, because at that point I'm galley super wardroom. Like we're in these meetings. We have to be. I'm in meetings with first classes and stuff, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't you give him a chance? And they're like, just no. And I'm like, well, you can't take that away. Feel like, have you seen him? Okay, but a haircut and a shaved beard ain't nothing. But you know what I mean? That he can do that. Like, but why would you take this from him when he might actually have a chance? At the end of the day, the CO honestly picks what cook they want. It's like 4 or 5 people go up in a little competition, and the CO is like, oh, I like this plate. And that's usually who the cook is. But it just pissed me off that the chain of command would not give him an option. And I was so mad about it. And I mean, like, not, they wouldn't give him a chance. And I was so mad about it. And I was so upset. And I just remember I was so heated and everything because they took that away from him. And no, I can't go tell him, you know, oh, the chain of command is out for you and this and they, because at that point I'm just stirring the pot. But it just made me look at my chain of command just differently because I was just like, I thought we were all like understandable, but that's fucked up. Like, don't ask me for shit. Don't come to my galley asking for no food. Don't, like, I was pissed because you really took this from somebody, and I've, been one of his mentors. Like, I've been watching over this kid for a while. Like, he's a great cook, and y'all just say all of a sudden no. But they lie and they have his hopes up. They're like, yeah, we'll put your name down. We'll see what. And as soon
No,
as he
don't
walks out,
don't don't do that shit. No,
yeah,
no,
and
man.
it just broke my heart because I just could not believe that they like said all that happy things for him, and the whole time I'm giving him thumbs up and shit. The whole time I'm hearing, CS1 say that, and then as soon as he walks out, they're like, no, and I'm like, y'all just broke my heart. Like that's so fucked up, and that's why I just would not go and lead flag. I've thought about it for so long, and there's moments where I'm like, yes, 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 and then there's moments where I'm like, no, no, no. Um, and it's just because I can't not be there for people that need guidance, and I feel so bad for them. And I'm excited about going back to a ship. I'm so excited. I'm going back to the TR 5 more years.
What?
Yeah.
Shit. Playa,
I,
playa, playa, playa.
I was really I wanted to go to Norfolk, but I think I'm gonna finish my career in Norfolk. A lot of people, okay, CBS anyway. A lot of people talk shit and they're like, "Oh, why do you want to go to Norfolk?" It's because I have never experienced it.
Mm.
And I mean, I was there TAD when I was on the Navy Culinary Arts team. I was there for 6 months, and I did enjoy it. It was cold. It was during February before anybody's like, "Oh, you haven't seen the snow." It was snow. Um, but it was different. It reminded me of the South. It reminded me of home. The prices were cheaper. I do want to go to a carrier. I don't think I'll ever be on a small boy ever again, or ever in my life, not ever again. I've never been on one. Um, I love carrier life. It's so many people and it's so many lifetime friends I've met. You know, going into the military. When I was coming in, I met, and I was still upset about Rhonda. Still I mean, they called me crazy because I still had her picture as my like back screen on my phone,
Listen, never let that go. That's someone that has, you
and
truly love.
and I met my two best friends that are like my lifetime friends, uh Crystal and Magda. And honestly, they're like my sisters, my best friends. And I think you come into life and you meet different soulmates. And that's what I was trying to explain. I finally found like the wording, but um in life, if you ever look up the definition of soulmate, it says, um a physical or well, it says like pretty much a soulmate is either a friend or like a lover, honestly. So if you ever look up the definition, don't ask me word from word, but it's pretty much saying that a soulmate is like a friend or a lover, right? And I think that's so true. And I feel like even though I might have lost one soulmate or maybe even two, I feel like people have multiple soulmates, and soulmates are people that are in your life till like you from the time you meet them until the time that one of y'all like leave or pass away. And I love I love Crystal and Magda. Like they're definitely like my sisters, my soulmates, my other halves. And coming into the military and being young and not knowing and having them guide me and giving me guidance and telling me different things because you have a lot of questions, like when you come in, like you don't know everything coming into the military, and having their guidance really helped me a lot, and having them just watch over me and tell me like, oh, even Magda, like she pissed me off when I was at E1. She would always be like, "You getting your surface pen? You getting your like how they fucking do?" Yeah, blah, blah. But honestly, without her nagging me, and even Crystal too, without them nagging me, I don't think I would be in the place that I am right now. And that's what it kills me when people make rank and they say like, "Oh, I made rank all by myself. I made rank all by you didn't do it by yourself. I didn't make rank by myself." Um, I had Crystal and Magda over here, talking shit. I had Master Chief Harris and Senior Bell and all on my shit too. I had my other mentors, Lieutenant Hearn and Master Chief Reigns, like all of my shit too. Master Chief, you remember Master Chief Reigns from the TR, the Master Chief, the female MA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my mentors, and I actually picked her because she was so mean. I just loved it.
Good. You know what? I I wanted to kind of roll back to what you just said. A soulmate is a person with whom one has a feeling of deep or natural affinity. This may involve similarity, love, romance, platonic relationships, comfort, intimacy, sexual activity, spirituality, compatibility, and trust. I think you found almost all those with the two people you just mentioned, and I can understand and recognize those traits as well with all the people that most of the people that I connected with in the military. Well, um I found a father that I needed, that I didn't know I needed, with Chief Brontes. A lot of people used to joke about it, but he was my fucking hero. I left for the Navy with nothing. I had nothing to go back to except for a wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, who believed in me, and we had hope. We didn't even have faith at that point. You know what I'm saying? It takes time to build faith, but we had hope, and I hoped, and we had something else that stands out as well about your story. Also, loyalty. I decided never to ever betray. I did my absolute best to never ever betray her trust, to never ever compromise myself in any situation with anybody, to always be respectful to her, to the best of my abilities. And I've made mistakes. I've fucked up when it came time to be a fierce friend for other people. And my rock, my person, my significant other, my love, my wife, my best friend, has been there for me through it all. She's my soulmate. But the word soulmate, now I can recognize, just how you said, a lot of similarities with people you have good trust with, people that connect with you on a soul level, not on a friend level, not on a relationship level, but they really touch your soul, and you feel warmth when you're around them. I can get down with that.
Um, and luckily when I met them with the soulmates and the friends, um, I joined a bunch of like organizations and clubs and outside outside fraternities and stuff like that, you know, going back and looking, I'm so happy to be a part of these organizations and these, fraternities and brotherhoods and, brotherhoods and sisterhoods, because some of them are integrated and stuff like that. And I'm so happy, I started hanging around, like the Legions and the VFWs and having more and more family and stuff like that. And I started joining, like, I was joining a lot at like one time. I was joining like 4 or 5, and I was just like, I don't know, I was getting high over it. And I was like, I just love this so much, these people and doing so much and doing so much community service. I got my MOVSM twice. So just doing so much community service and just doing every minute. I was never at home. I remember Magda is my roommate and she was just telling me, she was like, bitch, at this point, you're paying rent for nothing because you're never home. But which is true. And I mean, that was kind of her way of telling me pretty much like, I want to spend time with you too. And you can't neglect me, but I'm not going to say that, which not say, so I, I had to put everything in the factor and I was just trying so hard because I wanted to be accepted all these families and stuff like that. But it was finally a point to where I was sitting in my room, the room I'm in right now, and I was like, I keep trying to become like a part of all these families and organizations because I just want to feel accepted. I wanted to show people that you can be, in this brotherhood and be gay. You can be, in the military and you can be LGBT. And, I'm gonna lay down the path for all the young LGBT coming in, and all they have to do is walk on it. Like they don't even like. I didn't have it this easy. I had to fight for this because some of these brotherhoods did make it harder for you because you was LGBT, and some of these brotherhoods did want you to fail. And but I did get into them. Eventually, it took a lot, and um, I finally just sat in my room and figured that I need to accept myself first.
Mm.
I always heard, every time I walked on the ship and stuff, and people were saying, oh, you just have so much confidence. You have so much confidence. This isn't me. And I hear that now too. But when I was sitting in my room, I was telling myself I need to accept myself. And it wasn't accept myself because I'm LGBT. I accepted myself for that a long time ago. It was accept myself to know that we don't have to fight. Like, I don't have to fight anymore. I don't have to. I'm not at war with anybody. I'm not at war with people. I don't have to keep being in these families to feel like I'm protected. I'm protected because of who I am. And I'm protected because of the people I surround myself with. And I remember just sitting there and just saying, like, dang, like, I just need to accept the fact that I made it. Because people always tell me, like, oh, you need to make first and you need to do this and you need to do that. And that's well, but when I came into the military, all I ever wanted to be was a second class, honestly. That was the rank I was shooting for, and that's the rank that I wanted to be. And I don't know why that rank was the rank that it was. I think it was because my RDCs were second classes. So I just thought that was like the rank to be. Um, but looking back and people, yes, I could try harder right now. Right now I'm an E5. And yes, I could try harder and stuff like that. But I'm finally at a place where I'm accepted by all these people and I have all these people, that love me. Even, like last night, I went to this club called Stargazers and I walked in and they were like, oh, y'all, Kathy here, like on the mic, because everybody knows me as Kathy now. And, said it on the mic. And I can go to these places and people accept me for who I am and they love me and they say, oh, I miss you and stuff like that. And they could be lying. I don't know. But I've never experienced that before. And I can go to these clubs and your presence is missed because when you don't go to like the Legion or the VFW, and it's like a family too, they start texting you. People start texting you, reaching out like, hey, are you okay? Da da da. And when people say like, oh, you need to make fires, or you need to try, or you need to do this, I've accomplished so much. Looking back and when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, and telling me that where I'm at today, that I was gonna be here, I don't think I would like think that, I'd probably tell you you're lying. Like I'd probably cuss you out. And where I'm at today was like I made it. Like I remember I would look back and I would be like, I want to be like that person right there that comes in, to KFC and orders a two-piece and can sit down and enjoy it and drive off in a nice car and have no worries. And I wanted to be like that person so bad. And finally I'm that person. Like I'm finally where I'm at, where I don't open the door and it's like I have demons following me and I'm at war with people. I can walk out the door and just go to my car and go to work and be happy. I'm finally at peace right now in my life. And yes, eventually I'm gonna have to open that door back up and start striving, to make first and do all this and do all that and not be at peace. But right now I'm content where I'm at. And I'm not ready to open up that door yet. And I think you make rank when, it's time and it's time for you to make rank and you're ready. And right now, I don't want that. I don't want it right now. Yes, I would love to pay. I would love the things, but I don't want the pressure because going from war from 16 to now, I'm finally feeling that peace that I should have felt, you know, back in the day before I even turned 18. I should have felt, I should have been at peace at 16, 17, 18, 19, just moving out my parents' house. But I'm finally at that place now where it's like I'm content, I'm happy, my bills are being paid, and I'm fine. Like I don't need all that stress and pressure right now. And yes, I will open that door up soon and go back, to grinding and trying to do everything. But I'm just like happy to where I am in life. And, this was a come up, you know, and that's why I try to explain people like 6, 7 years ago, like this was like the come up. This was the next day. Like this was I made it. And I'm finally here and I'm excited at like where I'm at in life. And I don't think people see it how I see it. I went from eating bread with ketchup on it, and that was a fucking meal, to now I can order whatever I want and I can eat something. I went from noodles was an every night meal to noodles is something I eat as a snack, and that noodles was something that was my lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like, and not 3 packs a day. No, that was 1 pack, and that's all I had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day. So I would have to like eat it at lunch. And I remember being hungry. There were nights I went to sleep hungry. There were nights that, after William and, you know, William died, I couldn't even eat. There were days I was on drugs. There were days I was sleeping in ditches. And I look at everything and like where I am now, waking up in a bed that's mine, I didn't have that luxury, so many years. I was sleeping on couches. I was sleeping in ditches. I was sleeping in my car. Like I didn't have, when I lost, before I moved in with Michelle, and I lost the house, I was sleeping in my car. I would go 3 or 4 days without taking a shower because I didn't have a shower to take a shower in. And people don't understand. I remember eating ketchup packets, and that was my lunch. Ketchup packets that you get from a fucking gas station. I remember doing that. I remember all these things, and going from that lifestyle to now, I'm happy where I'm at. I don't have to do that. And that's what I mean by fighting. Not everything, when I say like you're fighting and you're at war, anytime I walked outside, it was war. And it was a war of hunger. It was war of, financially unstable. It was war of, friends being frenemies. It was war of, everything. People judging you, everything. So that's what I mean by war. So I can like break it down because people probably like, oh, was you fighting back? No, it was war of hunger. Everything was war. I had this, as soon as I woke up, I had to find what I was eating that day, I had to find if I was going to make it to work that day. On drugs, I was lost, and I'm
Now you found
finally,
yourself.
yes, I finally found myself. I finally accepted, just like the prayer says, accepted the things that I can and cannot change, and I finally have accepted myself, and now I'm good, and I think that's what people have to understand. So when people are pushing me, yes, but it's one of the things like I have to push myself because I'm just happy now. I just have a lot of friends. I have a lot of like, I have my soulmates, or my best friends. I have friends of friends. I'm in different organizations and fraternities, and being in all of this, it's just like it's fun. It's great, and I'm glad that some of these fraternities took me in or organizations took me in at the time that they did. And I say everything happens at the right timing. And honestly, in my life, it did. Everything happened at the right timing. And when they took me in, I was lost, coming into the middle of, not lost you know, like I was lost on drugs, but lost because I didn't know military stuff. I didn't know how to move up in rank. I didn't know anything about it Eastwise, and having these people mentor you and teach you and tell you and stuff like that. It's like, okay, like, all right, like I didn't know this stuff. And I'm so thankful that I met them and that they came into my life and they showed me family. They showed me what a real family looks like minus my family. They showed me what it's like to come together. And, we did when I was younger, but I mean, that was 6, 7, 8, but these people show me that even though you fight, I'll never forget this dude. He's, his name is Will too, but he was telling me that, we had like a disagreement, and I went back to him like the next day and I was like, hey, yesterday I had we had disagreement and I just wanted to shed light. And he was like, I let that shit go. He was like, family. He was like, at the end of the day, you're family. Families, we fight, but families make up and families come together and we support each other. And no matter what, you're family. And I remember him telling me that. And it just felt like, wow, like this is a real family. Because not in my family, we beat each other up and not talk to each other for 8 years. So I'm like, family you're in. But I loved it. I thought it was so cool. And I thought this was just such a great environment. And I never wanted to leave. And just having that family come together and um like just sharing it with each other. I don't know, it just felt great. Like me and
And
my
that's
friends.
exactly it right there. You found your tribe.
Hmm.
And I really do love that for you. I'm so thankful that you are able to find your happiness. I'm so thankful that you're able to love yourself and to know that you are loved as well. That is something that a lot of us don't get enough of. One of my favorite songs by Chris Allen, "Live Like You're Dying." Uh, One of the lines is, "How come we don't say I love you enough?" And I want to let you know I have a lot of love for you. I appreciate the person you are. I see you for not your trials and tribulations. I see you for your successes. I see you for the impact you've made on other people. I see you for honestly the impact you're going to make with this episode on a lot of people. A lot of times we look at, and a lot of gold star mothers are out there wondering, why did my child end their life? You just talked about something that's very, very real, a very serious issue that was swept under the rug, and you got threatened by your chain of command at the time for speaking about it. And this is not, like I said before, this little mini disclaimer out there. This isn't talking shit about the Navy, because we are the Navy. You personally here with me, we are the Navy.
Right.
We're not saying that, but there's a big issue with leadership. You did a good job shedding light on that as well, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your struggle and the person that it's turned you into, because I am completely awestruck that you're here with us today. I am completely flabbergasted that you have such a positive outlook about it, because you didn't just go through things, you really did grow through them. And that's an analogy I like to use a lot, but you are definitely the shining example of it. Damn, it's a whole new ball game for me personally after hearing your experiences. I think it's absolutely phenomenal that you're walking into your light of who you are, and I love it.
Um, yeah, with all that said and stuff like that, there was I did want to talk about this too, but
Mm-hmm.
not say names and stuff like that, which could also reflect about chain of commands, but could also reflect about the Navy. There was a time in 2019, um, I was actually finally talking to someone, you know. I hate being in relationships because I hate ever since Will, I hate being like controlled. And there was actually a time that I was actually talking to someone and I was so, you know, so excited about this person. And, you know, they were my, when I tend to be in relationships, tend to judge them based off William. And, you know, he does this, but he don't do that. And he does this and he doesn't do that. And, you know, I started, you know, dating once, you know, I got into the military, probably about 3 years after the first deployment. I started actually going on dates and stuff like that. And I finally met this person who was a first class. I met him at the next, and I was so excited. He was like, he just got here from Japan, and I was like, oh, this is so great and this is so cool and stuff like that. And um, it was like 2019, 2018, the end of 2018, 2019, and we have been talking probably about a year at this point. We've been talking for a year, you know, going on dates, you know, mess around, you know, real like what people do. And I always thought he was hiding something, but I always thought that was because I just didn't trust people when it comes to relationship. One thing I don't play with is, you know, my heart, my money, and stuff like that. So we went on deployment in 2019 and we were talking and stuff like this, and we were, you know, really kicking it. He was emailing me. I was emailing him. He was checking on me, stuff like that. And this was around the time like COVID was coming out. And COVID actually did come out, and we were talking like every day, and I ended up catching COVID on the TR, and which is another thing. The HMs were pissing me off because they kept telling me I didn't have COVID, and I remember I broke out in a rash like all over my body, and this is when I had COVID, and I was like, I have this rash, and they were telling me that it was my soap. I said no, I used Lori Mercier. Lori Mercier is $80 fucking soap. It ain't the
Ain't gonna
fucking
cause no
soap.
rash.
Hey, I be using it. It's for sensitive skin. Oh, it ain't no motherfucker. It ain't the fucking soap. I'll tell you that much. And that's what I was telling the HM, and they were like, "Well, we don't think you have COVID." The next day, you know, I went in and I was like, "Okay, I can't taste or smell." And they're like, "Well, that's not a symptom." I'm like, "I'm telling you right now, I have fucking COVID. I've never." They're like, "It's because you haven't stopped it." Nose. No, I can't taste. I literally smelled bleach, and I couldn't even. I felt it burn, but I didn't smell it. So I ended up getting quarantined, and I was still talking to this dude every day. He was checking up on me and stuff like that. And um, it was crazy because before deployment, like we would spend like days with each other, like hours, days. Some nights he would sleep over. Like it's, and he told me he had a daughter and that was his only kid, and the mama stays here in like San Diego and stuff like that. And I was just like, I was all believing it because I'm like, you know, like you were staying overnight, you would, you know, we were going to dinners, movies, we were out in public, stuff like that. We never took pictures, honestly, together. Um, a few pictures, but I wasn't like at that point, I really wasn't photogenic. Like 2016, 17, 18, I really didn't take a lot of pictures because I was so used to never having a phone and taking pictures. When I was, you know, with William and doing all this, I had like a fucking Metro PCS like flip phone. Like at this point, like that's what it felt like. I didn't have iPhone, you know, until I joined the Navy. So, um, we were doing this, and during deployment, he asked me, he was like, "Hey, you know, like my grandma's about to die and stuff like that because of COVID, and my aunt has COVID too, and she's dying," which was probably about a week and a half apart. And he was telling me they were trying to raise money for the family and stuff like that. And at this point, I have COVID. I don't know if I'm gonna die. And we were getting them little stimmy checks and all these like little checks and shit. So he asked me for $6,000. And he was like, I'll pay you back. I promise. Like, you know, I've never asked money from you, which is true. You know, we've been talking for this long. He's never asked money. He always paid for everything. He always paid for the movie. He always paid for the drinks. So I was like, you know, honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be alive tomorrow because everybody has fucking COVID. And at this point, you just didn't know. All you saw was deaths, 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 deaths. Like you didn't know. I didn't know. So I gave him the $6,000. He's like, I'll pay you back over time. I'll do this. And I was like, okay, well, we get back in July. And, July is my birthday. I think it was like June, May, June, July, around that time. But I think I gave him the deadline of July. I'm like, hey, July's deadline, just start making payments. He's like, yeah, da 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 da. During the quarantine, I found out that he's actually married with 3 kids.
Oh Lord.
Yes. And
Oh no.
because I was telling Crystal and Magda everything, and they're like FBI agents, you know what I mean? And they were like, "Is he in the Navy?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's a first class, and he was an AZ1." And um, I was like, they were like, "Look him up on Fleet Temps." And I was like, "Fleet Temps?" I'm like, "What's this?" They're like, "Oh, you have to be a first class to have that access." But luckily, I knew first classes, so we looked them up, and sure enough, spouse plus fucking 3. So I confront him about it. And he tells me the bullshit. Like they always tell you, oh, I'm getting a divorce. I said, well, I understand you're getting divorced, but it doesn't make up the fact that you lied about your kids. You told me you had a daughter. You didn't tell me you had 2 sons and a daughter. And he was like, well, I thought if I told you more kids. So at this point, you broke the trust and you played with my heart. So then I started being like, well, you know what? Fuck all that. Do you have when are you gonna start paying the money? Because this is probably a month after I sent him the money or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So I was like, well, he's not gonna tell me nothing. So I gotta find who the bitch is. So of course, I go on Facebook and start looking. He had all his shit private, but one of the people that liked his picture had the same last name as him, and it was his wife. And I look at her pictures, and they just had an anniversary. And they're like, all this and all that. So fast forward, like, we're going through this. Like, I stopped talking to him, stuff like that, but I still want my fucking money. So we pull back in, it's July, and I'm asking him, and he's telling me he's getting a divorce, and he even showed me like divorce papers and stuff like that. And of course, like me, like a dumb bitch, like a clown, might as well just break out the big red shoes and fucking makeup. Um, I believe him. So I'm over there like, oh, okay, da 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 da, this and that. So I remember it was July, and he hasn't made not one payment. Remind you, he got this money January, February, and March, April. So May, June, July. We're going on 3 months, and I ain't even got a cent of the money back. And I'm not really. Well, I was worried about the money, but we just came back from deployment, so I wasn't really worried about the money. The problem is, I don't want you to try to get over on me. So what happened was, I told him like, if you don't give me the fucking money, like I'm gonna out you to your fucking wife. Like at this point, like I'm not even trying to be a bitch about it, but the thing is, like you over here lying and stuff like that, and then on top of that, you playing with my heart, and I just ain't got time. Like I went through so much struggle and hardship that I shouldn't have to lie about, lie about who I am or feel like you're trying to throw me back in the closet, and I came out like in 7th grade. So I got mad. So I did. So he hang out with this one group, and I didn't realize how powerful this one group was. But he told me one day he was talking shit, and he was like, "Oh, you can't find me." And I hang out with a lot of other groups too that also hang out with his group. So he's like, "Oh, you can't find me. You can't do this." So I was like, "Whatever, motherfucker, I can," and sure did, and did, and outed him and took it to the streets like a dumbass. Should just motherfucking took it to Jag, but out of him. And the whole 2019, I was having so many death threats from his brothers and being followed and being watched, and um, people saying that they were going to kill me, people trying to set me up. I didn't realize how strong of a group this group was, but um, it was really scary, and I actually went through a little bit of depression in 2019, and I think a lot of people saw it. I actually deleted my Facebook um, for like 6 or 7 months, and I actually deleted my old Facebook and started a new Facebook because of it. And going in, everybody knew about it. Like people were hearing about it from work. I outed him with this particular group, and now it was going from that group to like the Legion to the VFW to work to, you know, first classes and chiefs are hearing about this shit to, you know, different things because this group is so big and, just so well known and a lot of people are in it. And I didn't realize, but yeah, like I had many death threats. I had many places that I was at that people were like telling me I had a target on my back and this and that. And I actually did go through depression. And luckily for Magda and Crystal, they really got me out of it. And I went to my chain of command for help and they didn't help me. I even showed them the death threats. They did not help me. They told me to put an MPO out on him. It's not him that's trying to kill me. Mm. If I put an MPO, that only protects me on base. That doesn't protect me out in town. And they're like, oh, get a restraining order. The thing is, it's not him following me home
a piece
from
of
work.
paper.
It's not him. Yeah, it's not him showing up when I'm working. It's his brothers. It's his brotherhood that's showing up. Like, and there was no help at all. And I was trying to switch platforms. I was trying to actually just move to, Virginia or something, or they didn't even tell me about a 1306. Like, they could have told me all these different things that I found out now. Like, I could have put a 1306 in and gave up my short duty and went back to sea and went somewhere else. And they didn't do this. And I had to deal with this in 2019. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that now, after being at war for so long, and now that I am where I'm at, finally he ended up transferring. And more to the story, I never got my fucking $6,000 back.
Damn.
His brothers left me alone after a long time, and they really had it out for me. I'm sure it's still bad beef. Like if I see them out in town, they see me. I'm sure it's gonna be like bad beef. I got set up twice that didn't go as according to plan because I'm not a stupid ass bitch. Tell you that much. Where they had guns on them and they would gonna shoot me or whatever, but didn't have it as planned because I'm not a dumb bitch. I guess they thought I wasn't street smart. And stuff like that. And I did go through depression. And thank God I had Magda and Crystal for that. And thank God that people that knew what was going on really checked into me. But it really showed me how many people are your friends and how many people are your fake friends. And it also showed me how many people just really hate on you and will try to sit there and say that they support you and they hate on you the whole time. Or, like they say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And I guess I was an enemy to them. And I don't know why, because I never showed anybody hate. I always was supportive of everybody because I have no room to judge anybody. I can't judge somebody just doing drugs because I used to do drugs. I can't judge somebody that's going through depression or that killed themselves because I have been there. I know I didn't do it, but I've been in situations to where, I thought about suicide. Yeah. I can't judge people for overeating because at one point in my life I was overeating. I can't judge people for stealing or doing anything because I was stealing and doing whatever I could to make money just to get a damn piece of bread with a piece of cheese on it. Like, so I can never judge anybody for anything. And that's why I didn't understand why these people were always after me and stuff, because I didn't ever do anything to anybody. But I guess they just had more loyalty towards him or whatever. But he ended up moving. I think him and his wife got divorced finally. He's still in the military, scotch free, 6 years. $6,000, still missing, still ain't getting. And everything finally died down in about 2020. And I was so happy that after that, because it just felt like, I had like a little bit of peace and then it was back to war. And then now I've been, since then, I've just been chilling and happy and thankful. And I guess that's what I'm just happy that I'm there. And that's pretty much like my story now, I'm just working, going back to the TR, and it took all of that to finally be at this situation. But it's just like looking back, it's like, damn, I have been in some fucked up shit.
Yeah, you've experienced a whole lot of highs and a whole lot of lows.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so appreciative of the lessons that you shared with me and everybody who's going to listen to this. Of course, I'm thankful that you're a vocal member of the Navy. You're not somebody who sits there and just idly lets life happen. You stand up for people around you. That's what a good leader does. A good leader will burn their hand to a crisp before letting somebody else stick their hand in that fire and feel those flames. I commend you for your leadership qualities. I commend you for your candor, being open and honest about things you wish you would have done differently in life, things that hurt you, things where you've hurt others, and things you wish you could have done better, and things where you have been hard on yourself and you forgave yourself in hindsight. I'm glad you absolved yourself of that guilt, because there's nothing like guilt eating you up in life. And to forgive yourself is to love yourself. To be self-disciplined is to love yourself. To look in the mirror and say, you know what, I've had some tough times, but I'm still here, god damn it. That is self-love. And I'm so glad that you're loving yourself. I'm so glad that you're at a place in your life where you can prosper. And I do hope you have the best future, absolutely possible. And I'm definitely going to be checking in with you. I really admire who you are. I really do appreciate your time, my brother.
No problem. I think just like a little final word. I think that it took me this long to, people always say you walk with confidence and you do this and you do that, and it took me this long. And yes, I walk with confidence because if you have been in my shoes and you have went from passing out and sleeping in cars and ditches and waking up drunk as hell and not knowing when your next meal was going to be and doing all these things, and I'm where I am today. Of course I'm gonna walk with confidence. Of course I'm, because there's nothing nobody can tell me. I've heard it all. I've been called every name in the book, and there's nothing nobody can tell me that I haven't already heard about myself. And if all you can talk and say about me is that, oh, I'm LGBT, or you know my teeth ain't 100%, straight, or whatever you got to say. At the end of the day, you cannot break me because I have been broken and I built myself back up. And to where now, anytime any negative thing, it's just numb. Like it doesn't bother me because to where I am standing at today, I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be where I'm at. And people don't like, nobody's going to take that away from me. I went from over drinking and doing drugs and throwing up every night and not eating and crying and grieving and this and that and doing all that, and then to be here today, like there's nothing nobody can do or say. So yes, when you see me, I'm a walk like I'm on a catwalk. Yes, I'm a walk with confidence. I'm gonna hold my head high, like, because where I've been through and where I am today.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you for that extremely powerful message. I really, really do admire you for it. And I admire the journey it took for you to get here. I'm thankful for your time. I'm thankful for your story, and I'm thankful for you being able to deliver it in a way that really puts me in this story with you. A lot of people, it's hard for me, especially personally, to articulate parts of a story. I feel like I jump all over the place. You put me right there in the passenger seat with you as you drove through this story of your life. So I really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I tried. I wanted to explain it so well so where people could feel like they were like kind of like reading a book. They could picture themselves there with, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I definitely feel the loss as well. I've experienced a lot of loss in my life, and you're absolutely right. You learn to heal with it. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for this.
No problem.
And thank you to every single person who is listening right now and listening in the future. I hope you share this with a friend. You never know who can benefit from having the tool of a story to help them regain the confidence to pursue the next thing in their life, the next goal, the next to kick the shit out of the next obstacle. We have a lot of issues facing us in this life, and we have the tenacity, we have the drive, we have the faith, we have the hope and the power to walk through it. So thank you so much for sharing this with your friends. Thank you for, if you like what we said here, if you like what we do here at Off the Deep End podcast, we have an amazing guest this time. share with a friend. The best thing you can do to equip somebody to deal with an obstacle in life is to show them the pathway. And Rebel did just that. So I, one, appreciate your service. Two, I appreciate your story. And three, I appreciate every single one of my listeners over there, my listener support group. Thank you so much for directly contributing to the channel. Much love, y'all. And enough waffling for me. Bye-bye.